Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Green Grappler, your favourite time of the LNG month. Today we're here to cover a wrestler, I guess, a alleged professional wrestler who goes by the name of Shane McMahon. I am Joe Holbert. As always, we have an expert panel. Bob O'Neill, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for this one. One of my favorites. Ready to get into it, man.
The Oracle of Wrestling, how are you?
Okay. This is surely better than what the world will be subjected to on February 7th or 9th. So,
what would that mean?
it's something called the Super Bowl, which has been.
Oh, I was thinking, what show are we doing on the 7th? Fine. And of course, the man of the hour. I agreed to this deal, and I should have known better. I made a deal with the devil. Contrarian Alex. Oh my God, sporting an invasion jersey on this program here. Alex, I think I know the answer, but how are you this evening?
The money is rolling in as we speak. I got the old Jack's Shane McMahon with the soft goods jersey, the X-Punk, the WrestleMania 32 Elite Shane McMahon. And I don't want to take it off the wall, but I got another one of his figures still mint on card.
I bet you got a ton of them.
It's victory lap time, baby. The hours at hand, etc. We are here today to discuss arguably the greatest big match wrestler in the history of the industry. I think certainly by modern standards, the true best bout machine, the icon, the showstopper, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. You know, the product of Vince McMahon's semen. We are here to discuss Shane McMahon here today.
Yeah, one of those was right, I suppose. But, you know, it is what it is, right? I mean, I can live in peace because I know that, you know, what a smash hit my part of this deal was, right? I mean, good Lord, it popped a huge house.
It upped her rate. It affected business for the World Wrestling Federation, brother.
Factual. I think considering that it's now serves as like a historical document, because I feel like we kind of... we kind of played that correctly, I feel. Also was nominated for a Golden Grinny, which is the highest honor you can have beyond winning it, of course. Just about outside on that honor. And now it's up to you to match that. So I'm not the one that's under pressure here, brother. This is, I mean, you put a lot of forward to this. You had 5 months to come up with the lineup, too. We have to note that. You were ready to go, correct?
Yeah, and I'm trying to get all like my my hyperbolic jokes out of the way here early so that like by the end of this, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to succeed in making my case of why I love Shane McMahon so much, but anyone that listens to this and the 4 of us here, when this is through, I'm comfortable in saying we're going to offer the most complete retrospective on Shane McMahon's in-ring career.
Yeah. I'm terribly ashamed of. That's going to be added to my resume, but you're correct. We will do that. Look, folks, we're having fun here. In all seriousness, I'm not here to kill the vibes or ruin the mood. When we did Grin Grappler, Alexa Bliss, Contrarian Alex was locked in as ever. I will be the same for all of our fun and games to start this program. I have watched these matches extensively. I have logged cage match reviews. I am on the record with my standings, and we will discuss them throughout the night. Now, as we go, I do want to know, Alex is going to be taking the wheel quite a lot throughout this program. I wanted him to be able to kind of steer the ship in terms of how we get from A to B, and man, there are some long and winding journeys that come along the way. For a wrestler that we may have seen the last of, but you never really know, right? You never really truly know. Anything is possible. Before we get started, if you're really confident, folks, that you're going to enjoy this program, if you're feeling it, you feel the excitement in the air, there is a way you can give us an early signal of that. And Bob, you've become quite the expert in that regard. What is it you'd suggest that people do?
Yeah, what you could do is you could smash that like button down there. It's the first time, so everyone's good to do it now if you haven't done it yet. And odd numbers.
Odd numbers is what we're shooting for, folks. And this should be an odd program of Grin Grappler. But we will start as we always do. And we'll see how it goes from there. It is with great deal of hesitation and fear that I ask Bob O'Neill when his Shane McMahon fandom begun. Go for it, Bobby.
So I first became aware of him because he was in SmackDown 2 and actually did like a top rope finisher, which was cool because I wasn't very good at that game, and you had to like do multiple things to set up the finishers that are standing or whatever. You get a top rope one, you just go up there, hit R1, and you're locked in. So you shake quite a bit in that game. First time actually like seeing him, live on the television was the Kane stuff in 2003, which we did not cover, but I will cover when we get to it because
I bet you will.
Yeah, I know. I do love it, unfortunately. That's something that I just have to own. But yeah, I mean, I've always liked Shane. I've liked when he's around. They went a little overboard with it in 2019, I think. But besides that, yeah, it was a fun time. Always enjoyed seeing him show up and jump off something or get thrown into something or thrown off of something, whatever.
That's fair enough. I can't really argue with much to that. All right, that works for me, Bobby. Oracle, I sense a different answer awaits from yourself. Your Shane McMahon fandom, if such a thing exists, please tell me.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure Fallon Henley and Shotzi just had like a 3.25 star match.
Oh, baby.
It was actually good.
Wow.
But anyway,
Fallon Henley.
Cowboy hat.
She's the cowgirl of the.
Okay.
Yeah, cowgirl. Yeah. Oh. Good wrestler.
But sorry about that. Shotzi hit an incredible top rope senton splash that just like
She
totally like knocked the shit out of Fallon. It was awesome.
Wow.
But anyways, yes. So Shane was like legitimately always my favorite McMahon. He was
tough company there, brother.
That was your delivery of that was incredible, dude. You stopped between favorite and McMahon.
I've literally been a fan of his since I was a kid. When he was like in the McMahon Helmsley faction and like helping Triple H Backlash 2000 shit like that. The thing with Shane that always connected with me is that he was a basically like, I don't know, dressed up like he was in a backyard wrestling match and would get thrown into shit and to me it was basically like there was something appealing about look at this fucking doofus white dude, I could do this, which some people would think is you could argue is a bad thing, but it was certainly an appealing thing, and definitely made me a fan. Always enjoyed him just because he would just do crazy shit and obviously there's a lot of crazy shit he does in the 6 matches we cover. Some of it crazy in the sense of, oh my God, I can't believe he just took that or did that. Some of it in the sense of why is he, having chain wrestling with AJ Styles for 5 minutes. But it's he's a fascinating wrestler to break down because he's the WrestleMania 32 thing was a very unique thing.
Yeah, that's going to be the bridge between Acts 2 and 3. There's a lot to discuss there, but it's like that WrestleMania 32 thing that's going to be like a feather in his cap till the end of time.
Correct. Yeah, which is insane. But I've always liked Shane. The 2016 to 2022 stuff, whatever, I think is a lot more of a mixed bag. But prior to that, I actually really do enjoy Shane a good bit. And he does a lot of insane stuff. And I do think he has 2 matches that we're going to talk about early on. One match that, even though it wasn't a great year, is arguably the best match of the year in the company, as Alex mentioned earlier today. And another match that is, without question, one of the 4 or 5 biggest spectacles in the history of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he was he was, even if you're not a fan of it, it's still something that a lot of people can watch and go, that happened,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely happened. I'll pull the Band-Aid off on this. From this point forward, I will just review the matches best I can. I hate Shane McMahon. There are very few wrestlers I would say that about. I try not to. I'm not. I don't mean it in like a I shouldn't say hate because I don't have any personal. I just really dislike him very strongly, and I kind of think he represents like many things wrong with sort of wrestling in the world as a whole.
Here we go. Fucking bleeding heart liberal going off again.
So I just, I mean, I think there's a lot of inherent issues with the man going out there in professional wrestling, and I really wish he'd have just stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
I would also credit him. We'll get to it, but again, I'm trying to get my bad stuff out of the way because I'm going to be a wholesome gentleman throughout the rest of the night because I want to support my friend Alex and his wonderful new beard. But I mean, I think what he did in 2019 is actually one of the most like offensive wrestling acts ever made, never produced, and I think we're still as a society recovering. There's many things that have happened since 2019 that I would point to him being a lead culprit for what he put us through. And we'll get to that, but for the most part, I'm going to try and call it down the middle here, folks. And there are some good wrestling matches to cover. No doubt. Now, I've got that out of the way. Alex, you're a Shane McMahon fandom. Take it away.
Where do I fucking start? How about that? But with Shane, it's well, first of all, a couple things here, a couple disclaimers. The 2019 thing, I was so after WrestleMania 34, I was so resigned from the WWF, like just mentally, that a lot of that stuff didn't resonate with me. Like I would watch like the big pay-per-views. And so when Joe and I first started like joking about this, he was just like, absolutely fucking not, that 2019 shit. And I was like, was it really that bad? And then I like eventually at one point went back through and looked at like, he was wrestling like every week on TV or having like segments and shit. And so I was like, okay, so that we'll get there. Number two, get this out of the way now. There's two matches that seemed like kind of obvious choices for Shane McMahon, Grin Grappler, one being WrestleMania 17 and one being his cage match with The Rock from 2000 Raw. We made a conscious decision really early. We don't want to do anything where we really have to talk about Vince McMahon, especially anything that would make it sound positive about him. So that's why those aren't on here. And throughout here, I don't really think we're going to be talking about Vince too much. I know he's literally his father, but I think we're going to try to stay away from that motherfucker as much as possible. So with my fandom with Shane, I remember when he became part of the corporation, and his first like feud was X-Pac wrestled at WrestleMania 15. Either won there, won on Raw, and defended the European Championship. But it's kind of funny to go back and rewatch things from the 90s and even the 80s when they had him like referee or he was like stagehand, and they never called out it was Vince's son. Like he even has a few shots in Beyond the Mat where he's like in Vince's office with him, and obviously a couple infamous shots of him in Wrestling with Shadows that obviously just became funnier and more like as time went on. But yeah, he became a regular fixture of the television show in 99. Oracle, I remember the match with X-Pac might have been the best match of that WrestleMania besides Butterbean and Bart Gunn.
Yeah, that match probably, I mean, that Mania sucks. Like some people like Austin Rock, but I don't love that match. I think their Backlash match is better that year. But the European title match was good.
All I remember is the finish is so fucking stupid. Like we're gonna have Triple H and Chyna turn on X-Pac, and no one's gonna see it coming. And I'm gonna be honest with you,
that's when they broke up the second iteration of DX, right? Was that Mania 15? Yeah.
So 99. We'll start there with our matches, and then into 2000. And Oracle hit kind of a big part of the appeal for Shane McMahon. Like initially, for me, like he looked like a dude, like a crash test dummy, the way he would dress. It was kind of cool being like 13 and 14. It's like, oh man, this guy gets custom jerseys for every match. Like, and the biggest thing why Shane was so appealing, not just to me, but to millions and millions around the world, was because he wrestled Vince like wrestled. he wanted to look like Hulk Hogan and wrestle like like a Memphis heel or something. So it was like what Vince did was not anything you had never seen before. It was just the fact that Vince did it. It was like, oh, there it is. Shane was like, well, I can't do that stuff for the most part. So like, and this, okay, it's twofold also. It's intentional, like him jumping off of shit and doing crazy stuff. And then also because he's such a clunky son of a bitch, like the way he would sell and like fall on shit oftentimes looked extremely painful because it was. And that's more of like watching through my lenses now. That's like an entertaining part of watching Shane. But yeah, Shane really became like interesting in the sense of he got it way more than anyone in his family of I have to go away and when I come back it'll mean something, and not in the I'll be gone 6 weeks and then come back. There's literal years at a time he's gone and just with really no mention why, then would come back. And one of his comebacks that we're going to talk about was like a genuinely shocking thing that happened, and it always made people interested. And it's his legacy, or we'll circle back to this, but he is an example of like Evel Knievel or something of like, well, I know he's going to do something, so I definitely want to see what it's going to be.
Yes, very, very much so. And there are, genuinely, his highlight reel is insane, right? Like there are multiple spots that could be a career-defining spot for another individual. Quickly, let's handle some business from our great grinners. Ben sent a super chat and said, does Shane McMahon have more uncomfortably sweaty, bloated TV appearances than any wrestler after 1994? He was racking these up weekly in that aforementioned 2019 run. Bobby, what do you think? This feels like a good one for you.
Yeah, honestly, he is right up there with like IRS or someone just sweaty when he comes out there, man. It's noticeable. It's gross.
He looks like a lobster in the last match we talk about.
Yeah.
For some reason, he decided to button the top button on his jersey, so his head's just like it looks like it's gonna pop off, dude.
Yeah, he's an interesting fella. Thank you, Ben, and we also thank Charles, who has upgraded his membership to the Grinner Circle tier. Will be live along with us this Saturday night for the Royal Rumble. You can do the same, folks. Grinner Circle tier, $5.99 gets you in. All of the other tiers, of course, but in addition, those pay-per-view Grin-alongs. The Rumble could be an explosive one, right? I mean, my goodness, when the big LG makes that walk, oh, baby, we're going to be locked in and ready to go. Charles, we look forward to seeing you there. Okay, so let's explain, I guess, usually I at this point would explain the acts, but this is not my program, obviously. This is the Contrarian Alex's program, and he came up with this lineup painstakingly over many months. So I guess it loose outline, Alex, it's first run, it's like sporadic appearances, and then it's the comeback run. Would you agree that's a fair outline? Okay, cool. And then we'll kind of color in on those as we go, because as you said, there's a lot of bridges that need to be built in order to explain how we get from A to B. So we will do that as we go. But before we get started with our first match, which of course is SummerSlam, August 22nd, 1999, Street Fight with Test, which we'll get into in more detail in a moment. But Alex, first, can you catch us up to where we're at this point in the Shane timeline, and then specifically this build, because there's a whole soap opera element at play here, fair to say.
Oh, big time. Shane was the last European champion, I believe. That's when they did like the Nash dumped it in the bin type shit. But Shane wrestled. He had just a series of nothing matches. This was outside of the X-Pac match, the first substantial match that he had. And then Test, and brother, we're going to talk about throughout this match because he's obviously the star of this thing. It seemed as though Test was being potentially groomed for a future main event spot. And part of that now is the McMahon family is all over the product. And 99 is a funny year in that it's one of their most financially successful. And the rating, they could just do no wrong. The ratings and house shows they were drawing and whatnot. Creatively and the in-ring product, it's one of the worst I've lived through. Those Raws are to me, watching pay-per-views and Raws from 99 are borderline. It's hard to do. It's we'll talk about 2019. The thing is the matches there at least are cohesive. The crowd's not reacting to anything going on, but the matches still kind of make sense. This is just peak Russo bullshit. And he would have been Oracle. Was he gone yet, or was he just about to leave? Because he started WCW in
He was
October.
still there. He leaves the first week of October.
Yeah.
He has a very quick turnaround. He leaves, and then like 3 days later, he's in WCW or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he like wrote a note or something when they were all overseas on a international tour. So, because this angle in this match in this style is Russo-rific to the tilt of Stephanie begins, she's falling for a superstar, and I can't remember if it was like a secret who it was at first, but then it's revealed that like they fall in love, and Shane is mad about this. You can't date my sister. And Vince is like, if anyone's going to date my daughter, it's going to be me. And so it becomes a match to determine the future of this young woman's life, because that's 1999 wrestling for you right there, baby. A lover or leaver match. If Shane wins, Test has to break up with her. If Test wins, Shane has to butt out of their relationship. But the deck is stacked, because there's the Mean Street Posse, Shane's boys, who in the build to this Test had taken out one by one and injured them. But they still show up here to be just 1999 style booking, where there's going to be a million run-ins and a million weapons and shit. But, that's what people were paying to see at that point in time, I guess.
I guess so. And I will, especially considering how I've started this program, I will immediately, balance things out a little bit. This is a hoot. And this is an example of that Russo style you were talking about, actually where it can be effective, because this is an angle that suits it. I also would note, in fear of taking anyone's talking points, Oracle, first and last match to not overstay its welcome here. A very generous and kind 12 minutes or so. Very much appreciated. Very lively, breezy. The Mean Street Posse are used to explain Shane's offense, which protects Test. There's a lot to like here, Oracle. What did you make of this SummerSlam match?
This match holds up. I love this match. This match is awesome. Very much could be, and I'll let Alex wrap this up later, but basically, this very well might be the best match of WWF 1999. And that sounds like an indictment. In some ways it is, but this match is legitimately very entertaining, very fun.
If if Dude Love and Austin from Over the Edge 98 is like the greatest Attitude Era match in terms of like the crash booking, this one's kind of up there in terms of like, see, the crowd's going fucking nuts, and it worked at this point in time.
Yes, absolutely. The Mean Street Posse are like one of my favorite Attitude Era acts for a number of reasons. One, their theme song is very amusing, and their gimmick is very amusing.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to be like Greenwich Street Thugs, which is like hilarious. And another reason is they ended up being over time like Death Valley Driver and Secunda Kaida favorites. And like,
of course,
these guys claim they were like, elite workers and stuff. So like, it rules in that regard. Because
do you remember when Pete Gas had to blade at WrestleMania 16 and like almost took his face off?
Yes, in the hardcore match, yeah. But yeah, this is awesome. The posse is great in here, sitting on their couch. We get Test, gorilla press slamming Shane into him or whatever, and I think is it Pete Gas that takes like the bump back over the sofa, as like he takes. Like,
they get in that really weird, like, because Shane's supposed to hit him and they're supposed to roll back, like a comedy, and they get in that weird part where they're all perfectly balanced, so the couch is like this, and so they have to like push themselves backwards.
Yeah, and so it's super fun. Like throughout there. Shane's like, his offense is more believable here, as Joe pointed out. Like he's got the posse to help him. They're setting him up. They're beating down Test. They do the flying elbow spot, that's the first time he ever did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Incredible.
He'd keep that holstered, and he wouldn't overplay that hand,
Yeah, never.
It's in all but one of the matches we're going to talk about.
But like the pop the fucking Stooges get for coming out.
Oh my god,
wonderful.
to help is amazing. And Jerry Briscoe is fucking swinging that trash can lid.
They're so fired up. Yeah.
He is absolutely eating up the fact that he's getting a babyface pop, and he is fucking leveling. Like, I think there's one point where he kills Rodney with a fucking trash can lid.
And then he talks the shit in his face, like "fuck you" when he's on the ground.
And of course, Test gets a big win with a flying elbow drop. I think throughout the match they're like panning back at Stephanie too, and she's like laughing and all that sort of shit. JR is exceptional on commentary here.
Wonderful.
This is just it's a great piece of business. I think it's other than maybe the Kurt match because of that spectacle, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. This still very well might be Shane's best match in terms of like actual match quality.
It's definitely his most like grounded in logic, like even to the point of he does the elbow through the table and the posse like pull Walter over him to wake him up, which is like because the idea is he just basically wiped himself out doing that, right? Like there's some elements there where they protected Test, and I thought it added a lot to the match. And if we were getting ahead of ourselves, those elements would fade, right, as Shane got further and further into his wrestling career. So, I think there's a lot to like here, Bobby. What did you make of this?
Yeah, I had a great time with it. Oracle really laid it out. Like everything kind of had a point. It was good. It's a rare good Test match, so that is another notch in Shane's.
What the fuck? Hold on,
crazy, bro. That was so unnecessary. On Alex's big day, you're going to do that to him? That's crazy. It's his big day, man. All right, you can respond to that. Bobby, continue, and then we'll circle back to the Test thing. I don't know what we're going to do. We're never going to do Grin Grappler Test, I don't think, so we'll circle back. Bobby, go for it.
Yeah, but no, the throwing him in the couch was great. Hit him with a mailbox, hit him with like a family portrait looking thing. Just, pulling out the unconventional weapons, all that. Great stuff. The elbow drop, like we talked about. Just a hell of a time. They had the people the whole time, and it was tremendous.
People are... they are losing their mind on those lightning falls. Oh, my goodness. Okay, Alex, 2 questions here. Firstly, please, this is your chance. Respond to Bob's Test slander, and then feel free to just go into the match from there. Go for it, Alex.
That's probably the most shocking thing that's going to be said here. And I'm about to decree one of the 10 best WWF matches of all time. And this Bob comes on here with this. Okay, so Bob must be just thinking he must only know like juiced beyond mobility, short-haired ECW Test.
That's exactly what it is, yeah. Like on Americans Onward. So I haven't seen enough of him, but yeah.
The match with Brock at King of the Ring 02 is fucking awesome.
Yes.
But so Test was just big dude who quickly got into because of basically what happens in this angle, no one's going to really tell me what to do. So I'm just going to, he might have, hit some guys a bit harder than he needed to from time to time, but he was also really good at power moves. I guess, since we're on Test, brother, you would sure think that this guy was getting primed for a main event run with this match, and his legs are gone by December? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know the law on when his body, like when things change for Test. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's. I think he was a victim of Triple H.
I was about to say, I think a certain franchise player might have said, hold on a minute.
Now, hold on a minute.
Because it seems
I don't think he's really believable. Like Stephanie, like I don't think he's believable enough to like be with a girl like her.
Only I can look like Shane Douglas from last year. And he saw Test. Test has long hair. He's good looking, blonde, jacked and tan, and he's a foot taller than Triple H. And he's like, well, we got to do something about that, brother. So Test, he was like, people were catching on. And I mean, if you follow at this point in time, and for those who have like gone back, it seems so obvious he should have been the guy that won the title at Survivor Series 99. He should have been the guy they put in there, but for whatever reason, Ray Traylor had to desecrate the Big Show's dad's casket.
Well,
so, all right, so for this match itself, it's lover or laver, King. And this match has like a lot of really good intensity. Like it starts with Test just like tackling the fuck out of Shane, and then they get in the ring. It won't be the last time. Shane gets on top of Test and starts throwing punches that are really hitting him in the face. And Tess is like, all right, well, that's enough of that, and rolls him over and picks him up and then grabs him by the throat and throws him at the turnbuckle. Then gives him like a near shoot back body drop where Shane runs into him and he just fucking hoofs him over like a sack of shit. It is 99, so I was kind of bummed that when Shane's getting all these weapons out and hitting him with it, Natural Born Killers didn't start playing. I was kind of expecting that. New Jack versus Shane McMahon. Can you imagine?
Oh my god. Alex, that's a note for you to make for the all-time draft in a couple of months, brother. That's something for you to consider.
Because Shane would have popped New Jack in the face one time and it would have been over.
Yeah.
Bob mentioned the picture, to which Jim Ross, after it's a good spot because it looks great. But he hits him with the back of it, so the glass breaks out this way instead of over his head. And Jim Ross says, "My God, there's glass everywhere." I think for the only time in his illustrious run, Shane tries like a sky twister press in this match, and one of the funniest reoccurring bits we will see is Shane McMahon never learned how to like land. And I'm not saying I could, my fat ass, but Shane McMahon never learned how to land on a dive that someone moved out of the way from. He is so lucky he doesn't have like 2 artificial knees right now.
Yeah.
One of the last matches we did, he does the same shit. And I'm like, how the fuck did he not just blow both his legs out on that? But here is a young man, so he's able to get back up. Also, not the only time in our chronicle here, Mike Chioda gets absolutely killed with a boot to take him out for a temporary period of time. The Stooges come out, and as far as worked punches go, Patterson has the best on this whole lineup still, just obliterating the Mean Street Posse. You guys both, all three of you mentioned it, the elbow that Shane McMahon does here, possibly his best just because of the way it looks. You know, the other ones he does on here are farther away. So with this one, he actually like gets to sail and gets a lot more hang time. And it also looks a lot cooler because he jumps over the posse. So it makes it look like he's jumping over a whole horde of people to get to Test. And then the impact is vicious. The way the table breaks and like Test just throws his legs up involuntarily. But in the ring, Test takes control, hits the pump handle slam, which was his finish. This was his debut of using the diving elbow. Stephanie runs out to celebrate with him. And it's this really is one of more like crowning accomplishments of the Attitude Era's way of book, specifically Russo's booking. I'm not going to give like credit to Vince Russo for too much, but like I can point to something like this and be like, well, when he had some people in it that kind of could offer ideas and shit, it could sometimes work because the crowd goes nuts and it's a fun ending here. And Jim Ross is, and now that young lady is free to live her life.
I mean, to your point, there is a place on the card for this kind of soap opera shenanigans. That will never change in wrestling. Russo's issue was always it had to become the whole card, right? Like it had to be everything had to have a soap opera element. Like,
and if this had kept going, they would have started using like shoot names. Like he would have started calling him Andrew and like, talking about his family and shit. Yeah,
of course. But this is absolutely a triumph. I have no doubt about that. I mean, I think it's also. Honestly, it's a complete outlier for our lineup, right? It's a very different type of hit to the other match. Whatever you think of the remaining matches, none of them are like this in terms of their sort of, I guess, awareness of what McMahon should and shouldn't be doing. Obviously, his confidence as a performer would grow. The fans' view of him would grow, and that would take us in different directions. But this, what it is a tremendous piece of business to kick us off here. The SummerSlam Street Fight, August 22nd, 1999. Let's handle some business as we do. Fahad has sent a hefty super chat. He's making a habit of that. No message, just support for the great Grin Grappler rendition here of Shane McMahon. Not sure it's your wise investment on this platform, Fahad, but we appreciate it nonetheless. I'll make sure Alex doesn't see a penny. Don't worry about it. Ryan Adams has been a member for 2 months. We hope you've enjoyed Gold thus far. He says, looks like WWE is going back to France for a PLE called Clash in Paris. Catchy, very catchy. on Sunday, August 31st, and live Raw the next day, Labor Day weekend. If I was not going to WrestleMania, assuming I still am going to WrestleMania, that would be a hell of a trip because there to be in Paris was great when I went there a couple of years back. A couple of years. But Clash in Paris, Bob, is there like a It's not very catchy, is it? You know?
No, it's not great, but I mean, last year was what, Backlash France, so it's like I
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, Bash in Berlin, at least you have the alliteration, you know.
yeah.
All right, that works for me. Okay, let's proceed here with this very program, and it's time for what I presume Alex is referencing when he said a top 5 to 10, I believe, was the numbers that you threw out there. Match in WWF history. It is King of the Ring. It is June 24th, 2001. It is a street fight. Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. Obviously, if you're watching this, I think you'll be aware the most famous Shane McMahon match ever, the most acclaimed Shane McMahon match ever. A very unique spectacle, as Oracle mentioned. Alex, if you can, explain the build, and also there's some context that's important in terms of who, this has been a busy night for Kurt Angle, right? I mean, there's some moving pieces here, Alex. Can you set the stage for us before we dive into this? Go for it, mate.
This is peeling back the curtain, but when we've talked about this match off air before, Joe gives me shit about, Shane McMahon out wrestles Kurt Angle. And I get like legitimately mad where I'm like, he had 2 matches already in the night. And it was the King of the Ring. It still had the semi and the finals. In the semis, Kurt Angle wrestled Christian. Shane McMahon helped him win that match. So, the idea being he has to wrestle again, and he wrestled Edge and lost to Edge. And we're still kind of suffering from that decision to this very day. But the build to this was that, God, it's so weird because the very next month, like within the course of like 3 weeks after the, Shane McMahon's supposed to be like the top heel in the company. And he was already the owner of WCW, and they had done like Lance Storm had come in, maybe I don't think Mike Awesome had done that yet, but Stacy Keibler he brought in and shit. So they were like teasing like these WCW folks coming in, and he ran afoul of Kurt Angle, where I think he was just trying to boast like the WCW brand was coming soon, and then he started making fun of Kurt Angle for crying when he won an Olympic gold medal because, of course. So it was Shane basically saying he could take Kurt in a street fight, and so this gets inked. And to the believability factor, that it's why it works so much, is Kurt had already wrestled for 20 minutes, had 2 grueling matches against 2 really scrappy Canadians already. I had to look it up. Dave gave this match 4 stars, which in 2001 for a WWF match, that's like a modern 7.5.
True. Actually, true. Like legitimately fair. That part of it I can't argue. This is definitely, the word spectacle is suited to this, right? Certainly. And there are different pieces to this match. I have to say, though, and I'm not trying to set the tone in a negative fashion. I'm just being real. I think if you quizzed most people on how long this match is, I reckon you would be one of the... if you did 100 people and Alex was one of the 100, he'd be the only one who would go, this clock's in at around 26 minutes long. Because I have no idea why this is... I mean, again, I'm not saying it's bad, because it isn't, and I'll praise it in a moment, but this is quite long, this wrestling match, and we'll get to that in a moment, but there's a lot to like here, Bobby. A very memorable one. What did you make of this on rewatch?
Yeah, well, one of my first notes is like, I remember, there was a bit of a match before they go up to the stage and do that part. I don't remember it being, 20 minutes before they go up there. But, they stayed busy. Even getting up there, they head up and Kurt takes a suplex on the concrete and breaks his tailbone. So he's dealing with that the whole time too, which makes it kind of even crazier. I mean, listen, everyone remembers it obviously for Shane going both in and out the glass. But there's a lot here before that too. Like there's a lot of good stuff. It's Kurt just kind of wearing him down at first, and then Shane finally does kind of turn things around a little bit. They tell a good story. I think it's a little bit too long, and they could have went to the stage a little bit earlier. But for what they're doing, it's incredible, and it is one of the only. I mean, you're never going to see anything like it again for a million reasons, and you haven't really seen anything like it since then for the same reasons, and like. Yeah, I mean, it's up there with, the Hell in a Cell match was fully going off the top. It's up there with the street fight with Triple H. It probably even surpasses that one just as far as, like, insane moments just over and over. And just the lore it's had speaks for itself, too.
Bob, have you ever watched the Untold episode they did on this match?
I don't know. I've seen they did a confidential like whole episode about it. I don't know if there's probably a lot of carryover there, but I've seen one of them.
Wait, I'm unfamiliar with the law. Can someone help me on the law? What's the law?
I mean, just the past 25 years, it's become such a whole big thing. Like,
right. I didn't know. Well, is there any individial elements that we must discuss, or is it just about Shane being insane? I genuinely don't know. I'm not being honest.
I thought you were being a smartass for a second.
No, I mean, like, because there's 2 documentaries about it. Is there like any like facts? Is there any stories that we haven't?
No, Kurt did a watch along of it on his podcast. If you want to go back and listen to that as well, that's probably that's a hell of a time. I remember listening to that one when it came out. But yeah, it's just kind of ingrained itself in history.
Oh yeah, so I wasn't trying to be a prick. I was just
So there is there are some elements to it of I'll cover those when you select me, Joe. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go to you last in all these matches, so you can like have the last word. So you can
the last laugh, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, not about that, but so I actually will say this, and I'm going to be fair. I was unfair. My memory of this didn't quite capture it in the sense that they do actually explain with some semblance of logic why Shane has success in this match. Because Kurt is out wrestling him, but he like plays with his food, right? Like he gets in the amateur stance and Shane punts into the stomach. And the idea is that like Kurt's arrogance and ego opens the door for Shane, and then suddenly he's in a dogfight. I actually really appreciate that on rewatch. I also appreciate how much Shane's offense feels like wild and like he's making up as he goes along, which is like as a non-wrestler should, right? Like he hurls himself over the announcers and scares the shit out of Paul Heyman, by the way, who is very mad at that whole thing. He's like standing behind them and jumps over the top of them. That was cool. I was surprised. Because I don't remember this being as long. The crowd just takes a while to get into this because like they've seen Kurt. This is their 3rd time seeing Kurt Angle in like an hour and a half. So that's something I'd forgotten. Shane's sharpshooter is very funny because of course it is. I do think the real match element is like hilariously long. Obviously, the stuff with the glass is legitimately some of the most like viscerally violent WWF stuff ever. After he hits his head on the glass going back through, the blood is like stained on the glass. I mean, it's a wild horror movie visual. Legitimately looks like a dead man there for a second. It's crazy. And when Kurt Angle is kind of going, we might want to calm this down a little bit. You're in deep trouble. So no question the kind of toughness and the spectacle of this. This is a very unique match, Oracle. We were texting about earlier. This is kind of a one-of-one deal here. This is wild.
Yeah. Like, I'll never forget when this match happened because I think my one of the kids who we were friends with in the neighborhood, either his parents ordered it because we didn't order this show, and he was telling us, "Oh man, Kurt Angle Shit Man was crazy. Shit Man with the glass, all this stuff." And then I think they covered it. They might have covered it the next night on Raw or something or whatever. And eventually we got the DVD or tape or VHS, whatever it was, and we watched it. And like to this day, it's still one of the craziest matches to ever happen in the Fed in terms of just like
Oracle. I should note too, just while we're on this, they showed this on the year-end Raw of 01, so you would have probably seen it on that episode. You know when they did the recap, so you may have seen it there.
That actually might be when I first saw it, actually. Yeah.
Right, yeah. But carry on, mate. Go for it.
But the Kurt in the early portions, Kurt is beating the fuck out of Shane, like legitimately beating his ass,
which is awesome.
He's like. Do you remember when Kurt in 2004, 2005 did those, Kurt Angle Invitationals? Mm-hmm. He was treating Shane like that. Just totally beating the fuck out of him, slapping the back of the head. The part where he's like punching Shane with like fucking clubs and shit and like clobbering him and shit in the corner was awesome.
Yeah.
I had totally forgotten Shane like diving over the announce team, and it was a terribly stupid spot because, like, it was awesome, but also like silly because like he could have easily like whacked Heyman in the head, which would have been way funnier for what it's worth.
Heyman should have hit him with the Heenan. What the fuck are you doing?
I think he almost did. He was quite mad, I think.
Shane's like random arm drag into the fucking barricade was badass.
Mhm.
The glass stuff is insane, but I know the spot because I know Kurt had broken his, had cracked his tailbone on the suplex. So I spent the whole time paying attention to Kurt's face. So like they hit
He's
and
not selling, dude. Yeah.
and you see him. He just goes like his breath is gone, and he is just like glazed over eyes, like after he takes it, and you could just tell the pain he is in is like not to be measured for someone who's not experienced that. It's like he's literally like in severe pain. And the way he like stands up, he literally looks like, you know, like a grandparent who's like, very old and like struggling to get up out of a seat or something. Like he's like deeply struggling, and knowing the knowledge about that, now you know that he's over here having to do belly to belly overheads on fucking glass that's like actual glass or something. Because I listened to the Laps fan episode of this show like a month ago, and they're talking about how the glass was actual, like, because I mean, Alex, you probably heard the episode before, like it's like actual glass or something. Or
so
something
the
like
story
that.
it was supposed to be gimmicked, but the production teams didn't communicate properly, and they lacquered it extra thick so it didn't blow out when the pyro went off. And so that's why like Shane was supposed to go through fairly easily on both of those attempts, and as you guys saw, that's not exactly what happened.
It's bad, right? Like the first one,
yeah.
I don't know how that didn't knock him out. The way his head hit the concrete, dude.
It's like terrifying. It's like holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes through it, and then you realize it's real fucking glass because Kurt's arm and back are all fucked up. Shane's covered in it. Then they do the thing where they try to go over it again, through the other side, and takes 2 tries to do this shit, and both of them are just like it becomes like dark comedy.
Yeah, the crowd laughs. Yeah, it's insane.
It's like it's insane because you've got these wooden panels or whatever the fuck it is, or metal or whatever that's holding it. So like they're both falling and collapsing on top of it because it's not breaking. Oh. Sorry, y'all. This COVID destroyed my lungs, and I can't get rid of this cough. But after a while, Kurt's just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Just throws Shane through it and probably tells him just go full force into it. And then like
He sure does.
They do the great camera angle where they have the on the double feature where they go to the cameraman and it shows Shane flying through it, through the other side.
Use that for the SmackDown opener.
And they're both so like Kurt's fucking tailbone's all fucked up, so he can't pick Shane up. And Shane's dead weight because I'm sure Shane's fucked to hell. So they use the I don't know if this was just like a planned spot or if it's just like his back was so fucked up he said I can't do this. So he puts Shane on the fucking casing and rolls him down the ramp. And then of course they still have a sequence where there's near falls and shit. After all this shit, they're covered in blood. And JR's like, they ought to stop the damn match. Because like...
To their credit, though, not often when you go past your peak like that, you haven't got a finish worth waiting for. Their finish is worth waiting. That finish is incredible.
Yeah.
They get this board up here, and we get a fucking a top rope angle slam off this board that looks spectacular.
I feel like it could have gone wrong so easily.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Easily. Just an incredible spectacle. The last like 12 minutes are probably like the craziest, like 12 or 13 minutes. Maybe in Fed history in a match. There's like
it's just so different. There's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
Foley in the Cell's the only thing that's comparable in terms of like that was even more scary because of in fact, those stunts were the Foley stunts were actually even worse. But those are the only thing that I can think of that were like.
This is more visceral because the thud of the
Correct.
head.
Yeah, because it's so like extreme. It's so like deathmatchy even.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But just an incredible spectacle. It definitely went. I will say this: it felt long, but I was engrossed the whole time.
Good. There you go,
I
man.
was engrossed the whole 26 or 27 minutes, whatever it was. And I can't say the same for a few of the matches later we talk about. Particularly one. But this one was absolutely engrossing, and I sort of tongue in cheek criticized it for the length, but the length actually doesn't bother me that much. It's just but in terms of like spectacle, it's one of the great spectacles in the history of major American wrestling for sure.
The length was, an issue for me. My bigger issue, and this is something that becomes an issue, I think, throughout Shane's catalog, legitimate issue, is I think he is just a terrible babyface. I don't think there's anything likable or sympathetic about him. And so, like, when Kurt is in control, like, as much as Kurt is fun to watch kicking ass, like, I don't feel any, like, I don't really care for Shane McMahon's you know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously that's a subjective, obviously, it's all it is. But I've always just thought he was a terrible baby, but I think that's apparently one of the later matches. But obviously I'm not as high on this as Alex is, but I mean, this is still an unbelievable piece of business. I'm not here to question that. Absolutely not. Alex, take it away, brother.
So I'll just start from the beginning. My first note is LOL Shane sit-outs when he's trying to sit out and out wrestle Kurt Angle there in the very beginning. Kurt's like picking him up over his head and throwing him down. The first bit of offense Shane has is he catches a kick from Kurt and he punches him in the face 3 times for real and hard way cuts Kurt Angle open. And then he runs out of the ring and you hear Kurt like legitimately mad screaming, "Get your fucking ass in here." And as Shane's retold the story about that, he's like, I kind of knew I had to give him a second because if I got in there right now, he might have actually killed me. Which he does fuck him up, and he gets him in the corner at one point and slaps the shit out of him. Like he sits him down, and it like when Shane gets up, you can see he's bleeding from the mouth because, like Oracle said, he slapped him like he was Roderick Strong or Brian Kendrick in 2004. So yeah, Kurt just fucks him up for a while. That bit outside the ring where Shane's doing that shit that we talked about in our last Grin Grappler, where he's running in or running away and then like getting like quick offense in. Shane has some weapons. He locks in a sharpshooter, which is just kind of funny. If you've ever read Bret Hart's book, there's a story in it where he almost beat the shit out of Shane McMahon like at a bar because Shane went up and goosed Julie Hart's Tookus and didn't know it was her. And when she turned around, he was like, "Oh, fuck." So Bret, I guess, threatened to beat the shit out of him. As you should, because you should not touch women that you don't know and don't want to be touched.
Wow.
The shooting star press he goes for, it was the first time he did that. So many things could have gone wrong because that trash can was vertical for like a second. Like if he had landed on it like that, he would have crushed his ribs. Y'all kind of danced around this because I know you don't want to give credit to the true masters of the game, but there is a real build to this match that I think, look, the runtime is excessive, but if they had blown through, if it was 7 minutes and then they went up and did the glass stuff, I can't tell you the reaction would have been the same.
I agree. Yeah.
And to y'all's point, when they're trying to come back through, there is this really funny reaction from the crowd. It's so genuine of you hear when the glass doesn't break, "Aw," and then they start like laughing amongst themselves because they like want and when it finally does, it's more violent than if he had just gone through with the overhead belly to belly.
Sure.
So to the lore portion of this, Joe.
Thank you, mate.
Kurt Angle. So if you pause it at the right second, there's a QR code that you scan, and then
come on, bro.
So yes, that suplex on the aisleway is disgusting because that's not like the Titantron ramp. It's not like the TNA ramp or the shit AEW uses. That's just a piece of carpet over concrete. And Kurt just goes up like a vertical suplex you would take in the ring, and he smashes. And like Oracle was talking about, like you can see he ain't selling, man. He's like, oh, this is bad. So when the glass didn't break, this is part of that untold. The alleged thing is Vince is like blowing a gasket in Gorilla and screaming to stop the match, and that's why you can like turn it up, and you hear Kyoto. He's just trying to do the thing of get it back in the ring, but then he's getting closer and closer to him. He's like, stop trying to break the glass. And also part of that was Shane, I guess, was repeatedly calling Kurt a pussy for saying he couldn't get him through the glass. And so Kurt was like, all right, well, and so there was this alleged scene of disarray and panic in Gorilla while this is all happening. Which is funny, but to me, this shit just rules so hard. I love like that they're so spent, he can't get him through the glass and throws him through. The ones when they're inside aren't like they're bad, but I don't love how he lands on his head. Like that's horrifying to watch, and the sound it makes even all these years later is just fucking brutal. But when they get back into the ring, the other piece of lore that's always really funny for me to watch is and I love this match so much. You, all three of you know, if this was in a match I didn't like, I would be like, go fuck yourself. When they set up that board, Kyoto has to get over there and hold it in place. And because it's sliding off when they're getting set up, and you can see him like tell them, you guys got to go, you got to go. And as they're coming off with it, like the board flies off too. It's like you guys already said, there's so much that could have gone wrong with that. But the way the crowd reacts to that is like, that is the art, the crescendo it builds to this match of insanity. The biggest reaction is the last thing that happens in the match.
Yes.
But I did not expect when Shane's false finish in this is the angle slam, the Shangle slam that he hits him with right before the finish. I can tell you this, I did not expect a callback to it later in this series of matches that we watched, but it's coming, brother. This I genuinely mean it. I think this, to me, is one of the top 10 WWF matches of all time. I think everything y'all have said that can be construed as criticism is accurate. And I think it is funny, and the stuff Joe and I go back and forth about fucking Shane McMahon riding Kurt Angle, even if he had wrestled twice. Come on, you know? And,
right.
But
that's okay. Isn't it? That's not... You know, the perfect match or the perfect movie is a myth, isn't it? Really, it's what it makes you feel. It's that magic that it can be. I don't have any. Yeah, I'm with you on that completely.
I think the biggest thing, like the point I always end on with this, and Oracle was definitely making reference to it already. We like have seen everything, and we have not seen a match in the WWF like this before, and we have not seen one like this since. And I know there is the element of like the shock and the stunt and the spectacle, and Shane's done some shit that was probably worse on his body than what happened here. But like, dude, when Kurt gets him in the ring towards the end and he kicks out, Kurt rolls over and like pieces of glass fall out of his arm, like in these puddles of blood in the ring. And like,
sorry, Alex, just quickly, because I think this is important to your point about it being singular. The reason it's so unique is there is not extensive setup time. Kurt just decides at one point, I'm going to belly him free. There's not even like, he doesn't even sort of tease it, does he? He just throws him. And that's why it's so like, it's jarring. But as you were saying.
That's exactly right. Because what Shane became was the guy of just like, well, if I look at like something or like I act like I'm going to do, I've done something before, people will react to it. And with that, yeah, Kurt just takes him over there. He's like, fuck you. And, you know, it's also for the purposes of like the violence and whatnot in a day and age where we are constantly exposed to like, you know, these death matches and ultraviolet style of wrestling that grow these crowds that just have pure apathy for what they're watching. And it's just like violence for the sake of violence. Like this shit feels like it means something. And all jokes aside, I will tell you, yes, Shane McMahon he never sniffed a match like this again. He had some good stuff that we're going to talk about, but this, you know, Joe, I end up stealing your line all the time, but I think this is certainly one that you could file under the one of one category.
Certainly so. And I would say, while I do have issues with the match that you mentioned, and that's okay, that's fine, I was unfair in terms of the out wrestling element. It is ridiculous, but it is not nearly as absurd as like Kurt would do way worse with different wrestlers, dude. Like way worse when it comes to being out wrestled on the mat. Like
Shawn Michaels, for example.
Yeah, Shawn Michaels like technically out wrestles him on the mat in their match. Like it's bizarre. In this, it is explained that when they're both on a level playing field, he beats the hell out of Shane. And I had forgotten that, in absolute fairness. So I feel I should know that. But it's a special deal. Like, absolutely. I completely get why you're attached to it. It's not like you're the outlier. We should know, someone said in the chat earlier, this has over a 9 on Cage Match. Which granted, I took a sizable hit out tonight, but still. Seriously, a 9 on Cage Match is crazy for a guy. How many matches did Shane have in this? It's a tidy 7, you know. But it's a hoot. I like the match very, very much. Okay, before we move past this act, let's call out some other matches, Alex. I'm not even going to. I'm going to just let you go first on this segment every time, and then the lads can cheer. Other matches you would like to call out from this first. I guess when would you say this act ends? I guess. With the Alliance angle ending?
I would say the end of the Alliance angle.
Yeah, that's a good call. It's because the last match he has for several years is the one we covered in the last episode, the Team Alliance versus Team WWF. So we did that. We covered that. That's up there. Aside from what we've talked about, he just did a lot of bullshit. He had the series of matches with Big Show, the one famous one in Chicago where he jumped off the fucking Titantron. The Steve Blackman SummerSlam 2001 just missed the cut because, like, jokes aside, like, or the spectacle aside of the finish of that match is pretty fun. That's another pretty good, like, plunder attitude era hardcore match. I feel compelled at this point to call out, to start making my case for the man and his drawing ability. On May 1st, 2000, the Raw's War main event featured The Rock versus Shane McMahon in a cage match. The second hour did 9.6 million viewers, putting The Rock Shane at 9.1. The overrun went into 10.9 and then to 11.2 million people watching The Rock versus Shane McMahon. So,
wow.
There's your overrun, Dave Meltzer. Take that, brother. So for spectacle's sake, that one's worth checking out. And, he had some matches on Raw and SmackDown throughout the invasion, and I think all of us have talked about this on air before, and I know it's something we'd like to talk about with our friend Confirmed Shoot. Yeah, that angle was terrible, but if you watch those weekly TVs, there's a lot of like hidden gem matches you can find in that, so I'm sure he had something that was worth checking out during that time too. Some match he did, him and Booker T had a handicap match against The Rock on Raw that did a monster rating also. So let the takeaway be that The Rock wasn't the draw; it was Shane McMahon.
If it works for you. If there's any others you'd like to call out, I'm sure Alex covered it pretty much. I doubt there's any other sort of remaining gems to uncover. I think Alex is going to have the full assessment of those matters as we go through this program. But it's time to kick off Act 2. We head to October 13th, 2003, Monday Night Raw. Quick note that we cannot legally watch this anymore, and that is insane. That we're just expecting just like adjust to not having this stuff. There's like 20 years missing of Raw. Like, I'm sure they're eventually going to do something. They did something with NXT today, but man, it's crazy. Shane McMahon and the all-star team of Booker T and the Dudley Boyz are here, and they take on. I'm sure I forget things, but I'm pretty confident a Grin Grappler debut for La Resistance. We're alongside Christian and Chris Jericho of AEW fame. This is a tables match, an 8-man tag tables match in which they. How do you explain this? I mean, they sort of just do an 8-man tag, but then there's tables. So it's almost like a house show match, which I would like to know. I'm sure, Alex, you had this in your extensive notes. They ran this match on like the weekend loop. Did you see this, Alex? Did you find this in your?
A huge revelation to me in the research for this was that in 2003, for a couple months here, Shane was doing all the house shows for Raw. Like, I never thought of Shane McMahon doing house shows. For the most part, he just wrestled Kane. But yeah, for like 2 or 3 house shows, they ran this tables match. And then they also did a street fight, Lance Storm, RVD, and Shane McMahon against Jericho, Christian, and Test.
So, like,
you would think
when
that's
they
in Canada with the people involved, by the way. That was in Louisville, Kentucky.
oh my, OV-dub. There's not like that house show match. It was this match, right? Like exactly.
Oh yeah.
100%. Because this has like a house show feel. I don't even know in a negative way, but like
this also like solved the mystery to me, because there had been like stories that I had read in the past about Shane was traveling on the road with the Dudleys and Spike. Like that was the car. And I was like, why did Shane need to travel anywhere? But I guess if he was doing the Towns brother, if he was on the loop, he needed to travel with somebody.
He must have just been super bored, right? To be doing the house shows. Like has to be just bored out of his mind. Alex, this feels like a loaded question. Why is this happening, this match? What is the setup for this? Why is this a thing?
For our intents and purposes, it was the most random match I could find involving Shane McMahon. That's why.
Which works for me. I just mean like why
so
in context of 03 Raw, you know?
Yeah, he was feuding with Kane.
It's
and
very strange. Bob may have to help us on this because this is.
I know, like where the other pieces fit in.
After the Kane stuff, he's kind of just around for a few more months. Then, like, he's there for Mania 20, and then he leaves again.
So he seemed to do some stuff where he dunked on Christian and Jericho.
Mm-hmm. Well, like the big angle, the undercard angle on Raw at this point was still. Yeah, because Shane's not even the focus of this. The big thing is Booker T trying to finally get his revenge on Christian.
This match is wedged in between. Sorry, Alex.
No. You can help with this.
Wedged in between the two Kane matches, and I think this was Shane showing up on TV to kind of assist a little bit in the build to the Austin Bischoff thing at Survivor Series.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah, because the way he was brought back in was because he was originally feuding with Bischoff that shot off to. Because the last match with Kane, the ambulance match, is when he's gone again until they need to pop a number, right?
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. So if this is like the spiritual sequel to the Alexa Bliss episode, funnier inclusion, La Resistance or Fire and Desire, Mandy and Sonya. What do you think, Bliss?
With all due respect to Mandy and Sonya, Rob Conway is a former 2-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Fair. Okay. Fair enough.
So that was also when I was watching this match. In this match, there is representation of every relevant modern professional wrestling company. Someone had won a championship with them. Like even like the Dudleys won belts in All Japan. Like I was trying to think if any.
Yeah, because Renee had Noah, right?
Yeah.
Noah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dudley's obviously everywhere. There's AEW representation.
Yep.
Ring of Honor representation, and of course, the Best in the World trophy, which Shane McMahon won.
We'll get to that. So yeah, I actually had fun with this. I mean, I feel like it's obviously too long. I mean, it's miles too long. Obviously, it's roughly 20 minutes long for some reason. I must have been really bored writing the show that night. I have no idea why it's this long, but I had fun with it, and it is nice to see Shane in something sort of vaguely resembling a traditional wrestling thing. You know, like a sort of. Because he's just in there just as one of the boys here. Let's say it's a novelty to that, Bobby. What did you think of this?
Yeah, it was fine. I was surprised that I had no memory of it. It was the Raw where Goldberg and Shawn teamed up later. I remember that, but yeah, I don't remember this match. And yeah, I mean it's fun. It's a nice little TV match. They get their work in. I thought Rob Conway was actually very good in that. You know, funny enough that we brought him up. Shane. He's very good at doing some babyface and peril stuff. He does the big DDT that he'll bust out again later against AJ Styles. Yeah, I mean, it's a good TV match, man. It's a little too long, but
Bob is not very convincing on this one.
Just kind of how Raw was back then. The people were excited to see Booker, and babyface got the win. So whatever, it was a fun time. I mean. It, again, was a little too long, and having to watch it in 3 different YouTube videos kind of ruins the flow, too. But, that's not anyone's fault except for them taking the library off Peacock.
To be fair, though, you got to sympathise with them, to be fair, Bob, because, they got to keep the lights on, haven't they, mate? You got to, they're trying their best.
That's true.
Yeah. So, like, I have a take about this, and this is time for me to deal this out. And a friend of the channel, Riley, has been working on this, and he's actually watched the matches. I've just watched a couple of them and have got on board with this. I quietly think this is like when Devon and Bubba are actually at their in-ring best. I'm increasingly bullish on this take. It is not when they're at their hottest, or most relevant, or most iconic by any means. This is post-split up reunion. But I think because of that, they are working so hard bell to bell. Like, I think it's every time I watch Bubba and Devon from this era, I think they are just trying their absolute best. It will soon, change in that regard, obviously. But yeah, I wanted to circle them. I think they're good in this match. And I think they're good often around this time, and it's kind of a forgotten part of their careers for other reasons. Oracle, what did you make of this 8-man tag? Tables tag, I should say.
My question about this match is, well, one, I don't remember. I remember Booker and Christian's feud over the IC title when they brought it back. I don't remember Booker being out for a few months, but he was.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his return match.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if Booker ever actually got. I don't remember. Did he ever actually beat Christian?
Probably not.
I don't remember.
I don't think he did.
This might have been it right here. Even though
I went to Bad Blood 03 where they had the match for the title, and of course Booker T lost. It was in Houston, so he had to lose.
Yeah. Classic. Although I did like JR's call when it's Booker T. Welcome back, Bookman, whatever he said. But my question is, why would you have an 18-minute tables match in the middle of the show and work a regular 8-man tag before just putting somebody through a table at the end of it? I don't
know, bro. It's really weird.
I mean, it was like regular tag rules and like
a bunch of haters in here, man.
Trying to like stop people. Like it was very weird. But Shane McMahon hits a great spear, as Alex points out in the second part of the video we watched it. Shane is in the first half of the match in there for a good bit.
Yes.
If memory serves, but he kind of vanishes for a little bit in the second half. They do some decent teases at the end, like with the 3D on Christian and whatnot, and then of course Booker gets the bookend on was it is it Conway?
Yeah.
Wrestle Kingdom veteran Rob Conway.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But this match is fun, but I think it's two different matches in 18 minutes, and I don't know. My biggest issue with the match is less to do with the work in it and more to do with the booking of it and the agenting of it. I thought it was bizarre.
It's puzzling.
But it's also like the one random Shane McMahon TV match that we have from like the Ruthless Aggression era. It's like the one.
And it's worth doing for that reason.
Otherwise, he's wrestling on pay-per-view.
And I would wager to bet this is the only televised match he ever had where he is not the central focus of the match.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's actually why this was a fun thing to do, right? This was a quirky one for that reason. I'm glad we did it, actually. It was fun. The moment late on with Booker and Renee was fascinating there when they got stuck on he was trying to spine buster him. Renee fell, and then Booker just had to muscle him up.
Did it again? Yeah.
Yeah, Booker.
He made him pay for it too.
Yeah, he slammed him through the mat. But this was fun, Alex. I'm intrigued. Had you seen this before, or was this one where you just saw it and went, that's a fun thing to do? Where was you at on this? And what did you think of it?
I watched it for this. The two quirky matches that I had circled, it was either this or the Superstars match he had with Cody Rhodes. And this seemed a little bit more fun to me. And I because that match is just a lot of Shane out wrestling Cody, and that's aged quite hilariously. But anyway, for when I was watching this, I was thinking, I was like, honestly, this might be the match Joe likes the most out of all these, just because it's like a standard TV tag affair. Yeah, I think there was no real reason behind it, just other than it being just so weird and random. Fellas, was Justin Roberts the ring announcer here?
It sounded like him at the end of the match, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Wow. In 03?
I think he was like on the road with them early 2000s and would only be like cycled in and out. Like,
He may have been doing like house shows, and maybe Lillian couldn't make TV or something. Yeah.
Notes here: heavy star power. Jerry Lawler living up to his reputation. When Shane makes his entrance, there is a girl in the crowd that has a Shane O'Mac sign, and she looks maybe 15. And Jerry Lawler says, "Well, JR, Shane's got some hot fans, that's for sure." And I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude.
He's
like,
awful, isn't he?
He's just the worst.
Yes.
When Renee gets tagged in, Jim Ross goes, "In comes Renee Goulet."
Oracle is muted. Oracle of Wrestling. Here's some insight here on this.
Real quick, Justin Roberts. Oh, sorry, I've been muting myself because of my cough. But
You're fine.
Justin Roberts was under WWE contract and from 2002 to 2004.
Oh
My God.
my God! Hell of a run, brother. Jesus.
So that was him, almost certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Oracle, did you also pop for Jim Ross calling him Renee Goulet on accident?
I missed that. Fuck.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He calls him Renee Goulet, and then King's like, "Renee Goulet, you're showing your age there." And Jim says something like, "I apologize, but we hope Renee Goulet is doing well out there."
That rules. I'm pissed I missed that.
The other reference that I like laughed out loud at was so this was the Monday after the Red River Shootout of 2003 when OU beat Texas 65-13, and Jim Ross, like, you can tell by the way he delivered the line, had been sitting on it all night. He's like, "You can't lose this match after that advantage. That'd be like losing 65-13. And King like drops the whole act. He's like, he's just talking in his real voice. He's like, "I've been waiting all night for you to work that in." Book, it's an awesome hot tag. The Bubba Bomb is always a devastating move, but this one is horrid because Christian gets up and he starts to fall before Bubba's ready. So like Christian gets spiked on his fucking tailbone, man. That move had to suck to take. This is our first coast to coast. Yes, but not the last, thankfully. And
when did he first do it? Like ever? Was it the Vince match?
Yeah. Which that, of course, I know there's people that claim there's like indie wrestlers that did it before, but the first famous example was Rob Van Dam at Heatwave 2000 of doing that. Right. And that was part of the story of that was Shane he just became obsessed with being able to pull that off and just like drilled it in a warehouse over and over again. Which kind of
that was the Heatwave 2000 was RVD had come back from his injury and he was building up. I have a new move, right? That was the whole deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And the WWE ring is bigger. So credit to Shane on that. But like those Van Terminators RVD did, because those ECW ropes were, the WWF ropes are ropes that they cover in like athletic tape or duct tape. ECW's ropes were like WCW's, where they were like elevator cable that had padding over it. So the fucking torque he would get off that, he had to give all those dudes concussions that took that, man. It was fucking ridiculous. Grin Grappler RVD coming soon. But anyway, Spike Dudley makes a run at the end. Always do love getting a good Spike run in. And this is just a easy going, easy viewing, random ass 2003 Raw match that doesn't really have, especially in comparison to what we're getting into next, nothing that really stands out.
Indeed. So just for, to kind of color we talked about the presence of Shane. This 2003 is the year where he wrestled his most matches. He wrestled 24 matches. He won 20 of them.
Hell yeah.
He won 20, lost 3, and drew 1. So WBC contender record here from Shane O'Mac in 2003. For the sake of conversation, to catch up, 99 was his second highest year, 2000 his third, and then we get to the horror that will come later. So, that's an interesting. I mean, that does give you some perspective on his schedule, though, right? Like 24 was his highest ever.
And this was the only year he did house shows. He was just Working Glenn on the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Glenn on the loop. There you go. All right. Fun match. I did have fun with this, definitely. Good time. Hilariously long, but a good time nonetheless. All right. This has got, you got some work to do, Alex. You got to explain this to me. So how we get from A to B again is tough because we now take a 6-year leap. February 15th, 2009, No Way Out, Randy Orton, Shane McMahon. I had no memory of this match. This doesn't seem to be something people talk about, or you even said to us, Alex, when you pitched it, like no one talks about this match.
Which is, for reasons we're going to discuss, kind of surprising.
Yeah, there's an element to it that I would expect to see more about. So the deal here is Randy has punted Vince. He's on the road to Mania. He won the Rumble. This is a no-holds-barred match. Alex, firstly, get us the years between, if you can, and then like explain where we're at for this particular match. Go for it.
I'm going to do my best here.
Right.
So he has the feud with Kane that culminates at Survivor Series 2003, a show that I was at, and remember Shane McMahon getting one of the biggest reactions of the night because it was what we said. He was in this match where there was no rules, so he was going to do something crazy. He then is gone for over 2 years. The World Wrestling Federation brings back the Saturday Night's Main Event show, and they need a true star to main event it, so they bring back Shane McMahon to wrestle Shawn Michaels in a street fight. That the only thing I remember from that is they do that crazy superplex off a ladder to the outside of the ring through a table.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so Shane, the whole reason he came back in 2003 was to defend his mom, and then he comes back to team with his dad. And it's bad. I remember like this was when I was really tuning out and just watching TNA more and shit. But like this is what leads to Shane and Vince like winning the ECW title. Like this is that really bad, heel run. They do a Hell in a Cell where it's them and the Big Show against DX. Like,
yeah.
I know there's people like Bob O'Neill that have massive nostalgia for that DX run of like 06 and 07. But to me, that's like hyper depressing shit. Like when we I forget what episode we really went in the weeds about, like it's probably Arn. The fact that people said like the Horsemen rolled in like 96, and I always think they were awesome, but I remember thinking it was like embarrassing that Triple H and Shawn were still trying to do the DX stuff in like 07. And a huge part of that is fucking Shane and Vince are revolving around this. So that leads to a bunch of nothingness through 07, where the last match Shane wrestled before we get to our next topic here was Shane, the Great Khali, and Umaga defeating Bobby Lashley and John Cena on Monday Night Raw in Toronto, which sounds merciless to say the very least. So we get to 2009, and I did not plan this at all, but we're yet again going to be talking about a real superstar that I think Triple H may have said, well, let's pump the brakes. Difference is things kind of worked out all right for Randy Orton in the end, but Randy Orton...
I did. I hadn't noticed.
So Orton, God, he is awesome in this match. He is on this hot streak. He won the Royal Rumble. He's going to face Triple H at WrestleMania, and part of it is he's terrorizing the McMahon family. And again, it is the build to WrestleMania. Chips are down. We need to bring in a real star, so we're going to have Shane McMahon wrestle Randy Orton in a no-holds-barred match at our layover No Way Out 2009 from Seattle, Washington. That's all I remember. It was just like Shane was back and he was a good guy again. It's like, okay. Because just what I'm saying, like Shane would be gone and then he would come back and people would view that as a big deal, so they would cheer every time his music hit. Yes, so a much different Randy Orton than we know now. And I think, and truthfully, the blow off to this push that Orton got was so deflating. I think everyone just kind of forgot about the entire angle altogether. And
well, yeah, I mean that's terrible. That's an awful piece. That's a terrible, terrible deal with Mania, isn't it? It's awful.
Yeah. And I saw Orton on some podcast recently defending it, saying, I watched it the other day. It holds up. He's like, people are too hard on that match. And I was like, well, yeah. But anyway, I think a bigger part of this is Shane doesn't have like a match at 25, and he does like a few things. Like I think he wrestles like a 6-man at the Backlash afterwards. But this run is so kind of forgettable that, and because the payoff to the feud is so so unforgivable, I don't know, but for whatever reason, this match falls through the cracks. And I think this is, as a match, way more entertaining than what he does with Triple H at WrestleMania.
Well, I agree on that. I think this is where your perversion starts to kick in slightly, because I don't see it in this way. I think you do, but I do agree it's better than the Triple H match. Whether that's what this is important. More context: Shane and Steph were co-GMs of Raw, starting in November 2008, post Mike Adamle. Bob, a very confident nod of the head there. You remember this?
I do. The Mike Adamle stuff just didn't work out at all, so they just went back to the McMahons.
Did it?
And,
I wonder why.
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, it's like right when I stopped watching.
Yeah. They run you off with Mike Adamle.
Yeah. I hadn't seen this match till today.
Yeah. Well, it continues the running theme. It's quite long. Quite long again, this one. Quite long.
Yeah. I mean, it's only 18 minutes, all right? You know, you're
18.
the one that every time there's an hour-long match in AEW, you're like, hey, mate, you got to check this out.
Yeah, I'm always doing that.
Because I did see a comment in the chat, Joe. I do need to call out because this happened during this whole weird transition period. In 2007, 2006, when Pride Fighting Championship was in the process of closing, Shane McMahon attempted to get his dad to buy Pride Fighting Championships. It never really got deep in discussions, but I remember that it was addressed on the WWE's website. They posted a story that Vince McMahon was meeting with Pride Fighting Championship officials. Joe, you know, you're a bit younger than myself, so you may not have the nostalgia for this. But loading the WWE.com page and the first thing you see on the splash was the Pride Fighting Championship logo. That was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
but yeah, Shane was really into UFC, and he was also like, the story about him was always ECW. He watched the syndicated show every week and would like come to TV with like, hey, we should do shit like this.
I actually think, and remind me because I may forget, I think once we've done the matches, we should have a separate conversation about the shifting perception through the years of Shane as like a creative mind. Because there have been many times where people have said, like, pointed to something and said, this is the evidence that he should actually run in the place. This has happened a lot through the years, or he's like ahead of thing, you know, he's more current, so on and so forth.
There's also been a few incidents where people are like, this guy should never be back here again.
Right, exactly. There's two, if you're getting ahead of ourselves, there's 2 Rumbles in this decade that are like the opposite ends of the scale in that regard. So he's very interesting, I think, in that sense. We'll get to it. Oracle, No Way Out, February 2009. What did you make of this? I'm intrigued.
So I thought this match really struggled to hold up. I remember this feud at the time and enjoying it, and even liking this match well enough at the time. My favorite part about this match is the early portions where Shane's on offense and fucking hardways Randy Orton with a fucking announce table monitor, and Randy's fucking like doing the fucking Orton cell, you know, with all the blood and shit and fucking balls. But then he's just like laying there on the table for like 7 minutes so they can get like so they can get the legacy beat down going on Shane. So like at one point they're literally like for like 3.5 minutes, it's like Shane versus Legacy. And then all of a sudden the camera pans over to Randy and he's still doing the shit like as he's like laying on the table. I think the biggest weakness of this match is there's not any heat for this. It seems like it really lacks heat. The crowd picks up a little bit towards the end when they do some big spots. I think they do a superplex to a table here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get into it because you get the big Shane spots towards the end. But it really lacks the heat you want out of a match. And I think it really hurt it here. Shane's fucking I'm just gonna fucking go up big time for the RKO. It was fucking awesome though.
Yeah, it was sick.
He literally went up like fucking 10 feet in the air for that shit. And then of course they did the goofy ass like Randy was gonna act, did his fucking his fucking IED conniptions, whatever the fuck he had. And in the post match, the tease like he was gonna kill Shane or whatever. But this was okay. I didn't hate it. I just, with the lack of heat combined with the match going, because of that, 18 minutes felt longer.
Yeah.
It did really hurt it for me. But Shane fucking clocking Orton with that damn TV monitor, and then the superplex, and then the awesome RKO bump, were certainly highlights.
To your point about the heat, and I'm going to take the heat off Shane here. I actually think that element like reminds you of kind of a weakness of Randy's game at times in terms of, and I think this actually is captured by how much he likes the match with Triple H that Alex just mentioned. Like Randy's a guy who kind of just wrestles like for himself, right? Like the crowd not being into it isn't going to make Randy change his approach. Really, he'll just wrestle the match intended to wrestle, and hopefully they hook him. And to be fair, they do get them, as you mentioned, but he takes over in the second half of this. I thought he took the edge off the match completely in control, like so deliberate. And I think sometimes in this era, he was trying so hard to play this kind of character, this sort of, as you mentioned, the I'm not going to do what you did, but those sort of unique mannerisms he was doing.
He pulls it off way better when he kind of does like a version of it in 2018, 2019.
Yes, he's
working. He pulls it off way better.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, I agree. It really affects
I really liked his Stone Cold Killer thing he had going here, but I could see how
it's not this bad. It's that I think it affects. He's focused on it so much to the detriment of his work. That's I guess would be the way I put it. And I think Orton's great. We're nitpicking because Orton's so capable, right? At his best, he's like staggering. I thought Shane was actually pretty good here. Unfortunately, just as this captures, kind of veers into your perversions, Alex, this also is when Shane begins to be like an action movie hero. And he just beats the shit out of everyone in this match. Like, they do a much worse job here. I always give you stick about the angle match. Dude, they do a way worse job here of explaining Shane's offense. Yeah. He beats the Legacy fellas up like nothing. Like, just beats their hearts 2-on-1. So those elements are always a challenge for me. At least the weaponry helps, I suppose. But I'm in the middle of this. I like it, I think, a little more than Oracle, but not quite as much as Alex. Bobby, where do you stand?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, it was fine. It was probably a little too long. Like, it's a weird pit stop for the Royal Rumble winner, too, if you really want to get into it. Like, it makes sense for the story, but just as a match itself, it's really strange, like I said, pit stop. But, like, there's some nice pieces to it. I like the stuff on the outside where they go out in the first time and then, Shane has to save himself from Cody and Ted. That's the whole thing. And then finally going for the elbow and he misses. And it kind of feels like a lot of what we had already seen up to this point, which didn't help, just kind of playing the hits. But it's okay. I mean, again, nothing in 2009 is particularly good. So
I like the portion where he targets Orton's leg with a chair because Randy's so
talk
great.
About ECW like that again, Bobby.
Well, that's fair. I haven't seen ECW. But
Bob's offending everyone tonight. I love when he targets Randy's leg with a chair because Randy's so great at selling that kind of deal. I think, one of the issues with this is just like they're presenting Shane in a way that I don't know if any of us other than Alex want to accept him. Like at one point he kicks out, and I think JR's on the call here, right? And JR is like,
I think it's Michael Cole.
Yeah,
I don't remember anything. Yeah.
Yeah, the JR would never say this.
I can tune him out.
Cole says, there is that McMahon heart that we talked about. Dude, I know it's a different climate and all, but Jesus wept, I mean?
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, Joe, here. That's not even the most unhinged commentary that we deal with on this journey.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, we'll circle back to that. I may have missed it, thankfully. Alex, take it away, brother. Orton and Shane, go for it.
Yeah, I really like this because it's a match I recently discovered, like within the past few years. I think that's kind of the novelty of like, I thought I knew every single thing Shane did that was like worth something. And I really have like a soft spot for this Orton, this iteration, because I remember just being so I remember how bummed I was with not only the match, but that he lost at 25 and like feeling like it was all for naught. He won the title the next month, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well,
So fucking stupid, dude.
so a lot of what I was saying, my enjoyment of this match is purely comedy based. One, like Joe said, Shane beats up 3 dudes at one time without breaking a sweat. The opening, like Orton gets so hilariously beat up in this match, and you can see like, or I can imagine rather, he was like, all right, I'm winning the title next month, just deal with it. Because the first like bit of offense Shane has, he punches him square in the face.
Yeah.
He does like, and you know, one of the most famous, our buddy Oracle posted it, one of the most famous Shane McMahon like memes is him missing like 4 punches on Orton. Orton gets in his face and Shane throws an overhand right like he's Chuck Liddell, and you can hear it crack on the microphone. And then Orton's just like, all right. And then obviously the hard way with the monitor, but then what you called out, Joe, this sounds like I'm being really like picky about how I'm breaking it down, but it's really just, you know, the magic of wrestling. When you do that thing with the chair, when you hit someone in the leg with it, you stand over them, you hit it so that the lip hits the mat, makes the sound, everyone goes, ah. Shane's like gassed and he's at a weird angle on his knees. So the first time he throws it, it lands just perfectly level on Orton's ankle and shin with like the fucking bars of the chair. So Orton's just like, motherfucker, like he's like he should be. And he's done that thing where he's like he did when Kennedy dropped him on his head. He's just like reaching out for him, like I'm gonna punch you in the fucking head. There's no more greater like big match Randy Orton spot than a superplex through a table followed up by a Garvin stomp. I was laughing my ass off when he stood up from the superplex to the table and then started hitting the Garvin stomp on Shane. Shane hits a spear in this match. The RKO is fantastic. And the other thing I really want to give props to here that I cannot believe has not been replicated more. It seems so simple, that thing where he's wearing Randy Orton out with the chair, but we're already in the time period where you can't do chair shots to the head. So they shoot from the back of Shane. Shane swings it, hits Orton in the shoulder, but you could, on the broadcast, sell it like he hit him in the head with it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really, like, really cool... I'm not even going to call it a workaround because the dude still gets cracked with a chair and it's going to hurt like a motherfucker, but he's not actually hitting him in the head, but you can do something like, oh, he hit him in the head, you know? And so I really like that moment in it. It is very silly that Shane McMahon is standing over the Royal Rumble winner like he's fucking, you know,
Right.
He's just missing an American flag and putting his foot on Randy Orton's chest is basically all that was missing. But there's my enjoyment of this match is half comedy, and then the other half is like there's a series of moments in it that work really well for me.
Yes. Yeah. And I do think from a performance point of view, Shane is like, I think you can actually see the experience in the ring add up some of these later matches. Obviously, there is give and take with that because he's older. So yeah, and I actually get and I also get the thing of like when you discover a match of someone you like a lot and you've not seen it and you like it, that is a real thing, right? Like,
yeah. And again, we're not talking about fucking, you know, this isn't. We're not talking about a fucking Bull Nakano level like category or a catalog of matches with Shane McMahon. So you got to take what you can get.
It's a top guy in a match that people kind of. It's always we like to have a little quirky ones. People don't really talk about this match, and in addition, it inadvertently, I don't know if you intended this or not, but it kind of like provides like a sort of preview of the Shane ahead in terms of the way he approached wrestling because he is. I mean, I shouldn't blame him. I mean, I don't know who's agent in these things. I presume he has a lot of power because of course to do, but then again, there's a lot of evidence he didn't have much power by these points in time, so I don't know. All I know is he would kick the shit out of the heels. So before we call out any other matches from this act, our guy Cran says, Super Chat here, my brother and I rewatched the Survivor Series 01 main event, and I didn't actually love it, but we both felt what you all said about Shane being the best part. Yes, of course, we talked about this on last month's Grappler. Shane in and out, being a nuisance to the WWF team. I agree, definitely a highlight. That match is, I'm not surprised that your take was the way it was because we all kind of had the same, like, I think it's actually often on this show we come on and go, man, this is so great, it deserves more love. I like that match. I think we were all at the point of like, that's probably a little bit overstated, I think, historically, that match, honestly.
Yeah, I
We
think
concluded. Yeah, go for it, Alex.
just what we watched it for was what we came
Yeah.
away complimenting the most, and that was the commentary.
Yeah, and we are of the belief the invasion match is even better, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's crazy to me, man. You said it earlier, and I wasn't even thinking about how close it was. Shane is a heel by that point. That's crazy. A month later, bonkers.
And honestly, a match that he gets like the big standing O afterwards, like they could have tried to make him like a big baby face.
Yeah, absolutely could have. Yeah, totally. It's weird. It's very strange. Okay, Alex. So I guess this act would end with. When does this run end? Like before he's gone for years? Do we know?
He has the match with Cody on Superstars. Which
that's somehow funnier now than then, you know? Like
the funniest part about it is it ends on a DQ because I guess they couldn't figure out who was going over on Superstars. May of 2009. Looks
the
like
backlash thing, right?
He had a match on Raw where it was Legacy against Shane McMahon, and
a classic.
Yes, and to exactly what we're talking about, Joe, ended in a no contest.
Yeah. Actually, and we'll get into this later, but there's one piece of evidence that he's like a lunatic politician, and it obviously was much later in his career. I would love to know how much of that part of his career he was playing those games, or did they just want to protect him? I don't know, man. I have no idea.
Dude, they did a dark match on a Raw in April of 2009 that was Batista and Shane McMahon against Rated RKO. I bet that was a hoot.
WWE Vault, we know you're listening. Okay. I'm sure they're not rushing to upload Shane, to be honest, but nonetheless, any matches, Alex, you'd like to call out from 2002 through 2009, brother, go for it.
Oracle, they all kind of run together in my head. Were the Kane matches any good? I remember there being good spots, but I don't remember the matches were actually good.
I like the feud as a whole because it's so absurd, but both the matches are fine. Like both matches are fine. They're like middle of the road Shane matches to me.
It's definitely memorable, right?
There's a great. It's the ambulance match that has an awesome coast to coast, right?
Yeah.
Like the ambulance match has like the two moments I think of most with his Kane feud. The match starts and he tries to do like a cactus clothesline on Kane, and Glenn's big dumbass like doesn't know how to do it, so he falls over the top rope and like lands on his head on the outside. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch it, because he just like stiffens like a board vertically like upside down and lands on his head on the outside. And then also he was a bit too close to the door, and Shane just did the thing where he swung the ambulance door and it just cracked him in the head. I would hate to think it rattled anything in his brain loose, because Glenn Jacobs is a perfectly functioning person these days. But yeah,
cool.
For all my like over the top love of Shane, that shit where he was teaming with Vince and doing like the ECW champ, like that was all awful. And I already said that I thought the DX run during that time was embarrassing. The Saturday Night's Main Event match with Shawn, just from the one spot I remember, was a good time. And
have you seen this, Alex, the Hell in a Cell from the feud you're talking about? Have you seen the match? Because people do say it's good. I haven't seen it.
It is good.
No, so yeah.
From the mouth of babes, right there.
Save that for the sequel, brother.
And yes, if I didn't stress it enough, I don't know where you find it now. It's probably on YouTube. The Cody Rhodes Superstars match, just because it's like hilarious what came of that.
Indeed. Bobby, you got any additions to be made, mate? Or are you
no, the Hell in a Cell that was mine. The match against Shawn and God is pretty good too. Obviously, we don't want to watch any of that stuff. It's very understandable. But those are really the big two. And then like I said, the ambulance match with Kane. I think that's about it. Yeah.
It's great, man. Everyone talks about, they got so edgy in the Attitude Era, man. That mid-2000s where they were getting desperate for attention, they were fucking... they were outright revolting. Edgy is not a good enough word for it, right? It was just a revolting piece of business every turn. It's just awful.
Dude, like even that thing I said at Lawler on commentary, but like the 04, this has nothing to do with Shane McMahon, but like...
No, go for it, yeah.
I don't know if people truly remember or like understand how disgusting the TV was when they were doing like that Diva Search stuff. Like it was, it was And that's like the hilarious part of their history is, oh yeah, that's at that point it was just Trish and Lita wrestling each other every week. It's like, no, that's not how women were presented on that TV show, man.
We talked about this the other night. We were doing a Grin along for a 2007 show, I think it was, and we were just talking about like, as wrestling fans, it's not that we take it for granted, but we're fully aware of how bad it was, so we just kind of, you compartmentalize that in your brain, and
yeah.
Like the idea that there's like kids out there that have discovered the WWE through Netflix, and like, I want to watch the Bellas wrestle, and like the shit they'll be greeted by, it's it's bonkers. I'd imagine that stuff is complicated for like the Netflix. I have no idea. I have no clue. But wrestling's a weird beast, right? Where it's like it's a lot of kids watch it, but a lot of eras of their promotion is actively built in a way that's not suited to children. It's a very strange thing. I don't know. I don't know the morals of that, Bob. You got any grand statement on it?
No.
Yeah, they did shit actively in like the mid 2000s. That was grosser than almost anything that happened during like the Attitude Era.
For sure.
Yeah. It's real bad, man. Real bad. Ben, this is a great question. Great question. What would be more perversely interesting? I have a strong take on this. Shane versus Nick Gage in 2021 or Shane and Barnett, Bloodsport 25? I think I know where you're going, Alex. The Gage matches for me easily.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can imagine the Barnett one. The Nick, like if he did the Cardona match with Gage, that would be like one of the most incredible spectacles imaginable, right? But a shoot death match.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking do that, dude. I don't know. He's a lunatic. I don't know.
The Barnett thing, man. Shane's arms aren't long enough to box with God. Shane showing up and telling Lauderdale who he's going to be in the ring, and then Barnett shows up, 5 minutes of showtime. Like, well, hold on, kid. We'll see.
All right. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate the support. Speaking of support, we're almost 2 hours. It's flown by, I have to say. A lot of you are tuned in. And earlier we had a little tip for you guys for if you're liking the show. I had to kind of show that, signal that. Bobby is the expert. Bobby, take it away, mate.
Yeah, if you're having a good time, you go ahead and smash that like button. If you did it before, you can do it again. You're going to have to do it one more time, though. If you didn't do it before, you're good to do it this time.
I think this has got to be the stupidest thing that we have now made. The other night we were doing a members show, and someone in the chat goes, "What do we do with the like button?" The dumbest thing ever. Oh, the most self-serving too. Incredible. All right, we appreciate you, folks. It's time for our third act. We are headed for a big-time leap, and before we get into this, Alex got a bridge to build, as I said. Our match will be WrestleMania 33, April 2nd, 2017. Shane McMahon and AJ Styles. But first, we got some work to do here, Alex. So,
yeah,
this is going to be difficult for you because a lot of this is like folklore, right? And rumor and innuendo, as Bob's friend would say. There's something happens with him and the family. I mean, this is weird, right? Can you explain the timeline?
Yeah. So there is a falling out of sorts. I saw it called out in the chat, which is accurate. Shane was on TV. He was, I think, part of like that brokered the deal with Mayweather to come in and wrestle Big Show.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that was one of his things he did. But yeah, there's a falling out of sorts. And then Shane, I don't know if he lived there, but like he just started doing business in China for a while. Like, and it was kind of ahead of like the streaming. If I understand it correctly, it had to do with like streaming, which in that case, in the late 2000s, he would have been kind of ahead of the curve on that. But so this is the point where we need to talk about, because to say things are going to get dicey here in the third act is a bit of an understatement. Shane McMahon was a draw. Shane McMahon sold tickets. He moved numbers, and this is all me theorizing things. Vince McMahon, yes, he had the feud with Steve Austin, but Steve Austin was the A and B side of that equation. Vince was part of it, and Vince played his role well, but as we've seen, Vince just in that role with anybody else isn't going to do the same kind of business. Vince, you could do the if you needed to, in case of emergency, pull this lever. Vince would come back like for a Raw, and he hadn't been around in a while, and maybe bump a number and shit like that. But like famously, the best example I can think of is Vince really thought him and Hogan as the main event of WrestleMania 19 was going to do huge business. And that WrestleMania ended up doing a lower buy rate than the year before and less than what the next year did.
Yeah.
Stephanie McMahon couldn't draw money with 10 reams of paper and 40 green markers. That's like where I think a lot of this came into play. In my opinion, is there's some egos at play of
egos.
Yeah, with this family, no way. I think Shane, I don't know if it's as much as his like ego as it was the other two, like getting insecure about like his ability to be bigger stars than they were or perceived as. Stephanie specifically, just because I would hope at this point she knows she never sold a ticket, t-shirt, a magazine, an action figure. Well, she probably sold an action figure.
Bob's got like 10 of them.
I was going to say Matt Cardona needed to complete his collection somehow. So I think there was just a lot of insecurities and creative differences. And who the fuck knows what Shane was saying, but I can't. There's no one that can dispel the rumor that like Vince did not want to be told what to do until he was literally forced out of the equation.
Yeah. So, Bob, I think this is probably your domain. What is the closest we've come to real reporting or insight as to the story of Shane like trying to overthrow Vince? Because that has been a thing that's been out there for years. Someone a bit in the chat mentioned it. Do we have anything resembling real reporting on that?
I don't think we do. It's kind of always, just been rumors and stuff. But yeah, he leaves in October of 2009. So clearly something happened, from the time we were talking about till then. And yeah, I mean, and that was always the talk kind of online and stuff too. Like, Shane should come back and take over. He's going to do a better job. So he did kind of build like that. Yeah, but I don't know for sure. It's clear something happened. I think that's a fair conclusion.
There's also like there was always kind of the rumors of like him and Triple H didn't get along, right? And like
yeah.
Well, I think
that's now. Yeah.
Well, yes, obviously, and I think as soon as he got his fingernails sunk in, Triple H, just like with Test and with like Randy Orton, he saw Shane McMahon. He's like, "You're not coming for my top spot, brother." So there's a lot of theories, and like Bob said, that's kind of always been one of the interesting parts of the story is for a family that has seemed to have no issue ever airing all of their dirty laundry publicly. They, for whatever reason, have this story covered up.
So it is important to your point, because this may sound crazy. I actually think to a lot of younger folk, believe it or not, some do watch this program, the idea that like Shane had sway with the audience is probably crazy because people just don't like him anymore.
Yeah.
When he left, like to what Bob said, he absolutely would have been like the hardcore fans' preference because he was mostly like a heroic figure on TV who fell off tall things.
And then the people that like were on the sheets and stuff knew that he liked ECW and he liked Pride. Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. I don't know. I don't know if that part of history has translated through time. I don't know if people realize that. Like, the 2016 return being received the way it did wasn't an outlier. Like, people liked Shane McMahon. That was a real thing.
Yeah, that's kind of the next part of this. And it may, because there are young folks out there, this can be extremely difficult to process with what we now know and like how the things with Shane McMahon worked out. WrestleMania 32... I'm about to say a lot of things that sound ludicrous. Just let me work through this. All right.
It's important for you and I.
Well, okay. I don't think a lot of people at this point care, as they shouldn't, because that show's a joke. Shane McMahon saved WrestleMania 32. And I don't think a lot of people comprehend how much things had fallen apart at that point. Orton was injured. Cena was injured. Seth got hurt. Much to his chagrin, because he hates being on TV, Triple H had to come back and be in the main event for the show. But the Shane McMahon return is one of the greater examples of like, we have absolutely fucking nothing. We need to figure out what to do here. When Shane McMahon came back on that Raw, that was like a significantly shocking moment on WWF television when there hadn't been one for like AJ Styles had just debuted, and that was also, but in terms of like something you didn't think you'd see again. Here's Shane McMahon coming out. And they announced this match that night. 30,000 tickets were moved when Shane McMahon was announced for that show. Again, WrestleMania 32 is an LOL of a wrestling event, but I'm talking of things leading into it. And because Shane had been gone for so long, and the randomness of just him immediately wrestling the Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell, no less. Oracle, did you go to that one? Did y'all go to Dallas for that?
Yeah. In fact, we're still there right now. The Rock has just come out with the
flamethrower. Yeah,
torch and
we're stuck in a time paradox here, but
yes, I was there. Unfortunately, the
yeah,
rest of the weekend was fun, but that was
yeah. But there is it's important to call out for legacy's sake. There was this palpable feeling of we don't know what we're going to see, and there was a genuine excitement in the air that if you weren't there, I don't think you really understand for Shane McMahon's return match. And then we got what we got, but and the subsequent years happened where we got what we got. But I'm just trying to stress to those who may be younger or not really understand, this was a big fucking deal when Shane McMahon came back. It sold a lot of, like I said, it sold a lot of tickets. It sold a lot of merchandise, ton of merchandise. So many people in those fucking Shane McMahon jerseys were there that weekend. And it's, his legacy is what it is because of him. But I think it's important to call out that at one point in time, he was viewed as this true attraction. And this was probably the greatest example of it from a monetary standpoint. And then he just kind of became what he became.
And it's also worth noting that, for people like Alex and I, who, Alex has been watching for 25 years at that point, and I've been watching for, 16 years or whatever. We had seen Shane through his whole run. He had been gone for 7 years. So when he came back, that was a really fucking big deal.
Yeah. And we should know, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure of all the numbers you said, but this is not a thing you've invented. We should know. This is not this was a story at the time. Meltzer spoke about often about Shane, the Shane match moving tickets. And again, because when the tickets sold element of WrestleMania is always weird anyway, right? Because the way they but it is a real thing. He was a huge attraction for this show. Now, obviously, he's wrestling the Undertaker, which is also a big deal. But to your point, the reason there was a novelty because this didn't really make any sense. The Undertaker was there as Vince's representative, right?
Yeah,
in a fucking cell match. Taker's a heel here by default.
Was this when they introduced the lockbox?
Yes. So
yeah,
the first segment, and it's an electric. It's one of the great reactions. It really is a memorable reaction when he comes out. He has that segment with Vince and Stephanie, and the big thing is the lockbox. And obviously, that's never ever been followed up upon, or surely, I'm sure Paul will get around to it soon. But with the long-term stories and such. But yeah, that's just one of those great wrestling. And people joke about it all the time, right? The lockbox and all that good stuff. But
so yeah,
go on,
I was just going to say that the point being, he left after this kind of middling run, and then was gone for 6 or 7 years or whatever it was, with all of this conjecture in the ether, and then comes back and it's holy shit. And then he's going to be in their number one spectacle match in fucking Jerry World in Arlington, Texas. And it was a sensory overload. So there was excitement. And for people who, I maybe started watching wrestling in 17 or 18 or 19, and that's the only Shane McMahon they saw, I want to let people know there was a point in time that folks were excited to see him and would pay to do so.
So, Bob, is this correct? But the Vince Taker was forced to wrestle because his career.
Yeah.
So it was a babyface match, right? Kind of babyface match, I guess.
The three great mysteries in WWF history: who moved the briefcase in the King of the Ring handicap ladder match is one. Two is what was in the lockbox, and three is what did Dwayne say to Cody last year at WrestleMania?
Yeah, that one may die with him too. I don't know, bro. This match, we're not obviously reviewing it, but just because we're on it, it's a big part of his career. This match is not actually like panned at all. I was just making sure because I was wondering if I'd misremembered it. Like, it has pretty middling reviews. It has. Look, man. I mean,
Which
here's
one are we
what it
talking
is.
about?
The Taker match.
Okay,
Because we have fun about it. But like, this match is not. Because I know you said quite self-deprecatingly. You said, the match was we got what we got, but this isn't a match where people go, "Oh, it was fucking terrible." I may say that, but I'm just one, chubby British man. Some people like it, right?
I thought it. And Oracle's obviously going to be the point of order on this one. I thought it worked really well in the building. I remember the main thing was my seat was right dead on with the side of the cage Shane jumped off of. And that's going to be something that's burned into my brain forever because it looked like he fell in slow motion, and that was really cool. And but yeah, I remember when I got the when I read the results of the show the next day, and it said it was 30 minutes and 5 seconds. I was like, I might not going to put that in the rotation for rewatches. But I've talked to people since that were there, and they agree like it was fun, but it definitely loses something when you're not. And then for those listening, I think I tweeted about this, but when we were putting this together, I was like, we could do that match. And sorry, Joe, I'll shoot it back to you, but Oracle just did his thing where he held his mic and he looked off into nothingness and he goes, "No, we can't do that match."
Isn't it? It's quite long.
I remembered the the long 10 minutes where they exchanged MMA holds, and I thought, well.
Joe, do you remember they documented, they took black and white pictures and video of Shane McMahon doing a training camp with Phil Nurse for that match?
Yes, I do, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Wow, that's God, this was some bad stuff, man. Jesus, looking at this, Brock and Ambrose, the League of Nations, Jesus wept. But nonetheless, I mean, we shouldn't gloss over it because he does 1,000,001 stunts, and we took. Look, man, the cell spot in this particular occasion is one of the most stunning visuals in the history of the company. Like, it is. I have complicated feelings about the stuff he does and what it means for the rest of the talent, to be honest with you. Yeah. But it is genuinely breathtaking. The way he falls and the height of that cell in a stadium like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because being in a stadium is just inherently different to an arena, right? Just because the way it looks visually. It's like a sea of people, and just incredible. And
also if you want to go insider baseball with it too, he missed the crash pad, so he essentially just took a 16-foot flat back.
Yeah, it's we should definitely say that as a triumph for Shane. He hadn't wrestled in 6 or 7 years, and he did that with a guy. Let's be honest, Taker was well past his best. We'll get to his kind of last stand in a moment, and it isn't one of the worst matches on the show. It's not even. There's a million contenders for that, and it ain't one of them, I don't think. So, yeah, there you go. A significant moment. It was not the end of his story. He would go on. Later that year, he would become the SmackDown general manager. Or was he the commissioner? He was the general manager, right?
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
And the run of him being overexposed.
And he began to sweat a lot on TV and wear jackets that were too tight. And then he appeared in the Survivor Series 2016 match, which if I was a meaner person than I am, I would have pitched to be in this lineup because I'm not sure Alex would have known what happened in that. But
that match is an hour long, though. That's the problem.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it is, but it does feature Shane getting speared so violently that he appears to die for a moment.
Yeah, he almost killed him.
Randy Orton gets everyone to leave the ring so he can just be scooped off the canvas. It's fucking terrifying, dude. I love him because I know he's okay, but relative. But Jesus wept. He goes through the mat on that deal. Randy has to go to his kids to make sure they know he's alive. It's insane.
That's the only match he had in between Taker and what we're about to talk about.
And that is why I actually have a lot of praise for this on the Shane side of things, which I didn't see coming. And I think I may be an outlier in that regard. I don't know. AJ Styles, Shane McMahon, get some criticism out the way that isn't it Shane's fault. When I saw and heard David Otunga, I legitimately yelled in rage because I'd forgotten this was the thing we had to deal with at the time. This is when Moro is he quiet quits / quiet is. I don't know what happened to Moro. No one knows really what happened to Moro. He went from a free man. Tom Phillips was added to the booth, and then Moro just disappeared around Mania. Do you remember this? This was a big story at the time.
Who's the white guy on the crew here?
Tom Phillips.
Okay.
JBL.
That's not JBL. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I've always thought the angle to set this up was fucking like embarrassing, the car window thing, which felt like the most. We need to find a way to do this match. Like that was so out of character for AJ, who they were turning babyface slowly. Like what the. This stuff was really terrible, dude.
But also, if you went based off the finish of Survivor or SummerSlam 2016, they were going to run Brock Lesnar versus Shane at some point.
True, that's a good point because he stops the mauling, right? That's good call. I say all that. This is nothing to do with Shane. I want to just be clear, but this is when we started to realize that old road dog Jesse James may have been getting a little bit loose with the pencil when he started doing this Mania build because shit started to get real weird, and this was an example of that. It obviously doesn't work because nothing in this era did. So Shane is like the heel when AJ is the baby face to the live crowd because the promotion is deeply broken. But then they get in the ring, and it's the opening match, and it is widely considered AJ's best WrestleMania match. You know, Boneyard is like a weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't really count that. Maybe I should. Maybe it's unfair. I don't know. I still really like this, and I'm intrigued where everyone else did. Oracle, we texted a little bit earlier. You're not so sure it held up after all, you Chief. Go for it.
No, I love this match live, and I rewatched it after the fact, like a week or so later. And this match is still good, and I still like the finishing run quite a bit. I'm not a huge fan of Shane, like having like it's amusing. It is amusing, but Shane doing like drop down tackle leapfrogs and shit is completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
and like doing like side headlock takeovers and shit. But once they get going and doing like the typical shit, it gets a lot better. Shane takes an absolutely insane bump off a baseball slide
over the table.
He flies back into, and the camera angle is great, where he flies in, backwards into the announce table. But I guess because of his jersey being like the fabric of his jersey and like his pants and shit, he slides all the way back and goes head over heels.
Takes a header, yeah.
All the way over the fucking chair and like it's unbelievable. And it's a spot I did not remember, so it popped me huge when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highlight of the first half of the match, in my opinion. Things really start to pick up when they get into the hot stretch run, and of course Shane does his the counter to AJ's coast to coast is fucking awesome, where he just flings a chair at him, and then of course Shane hits his own coast to coast. We get some big near falls. Him going 50-year-old Shane McMahon going for a fucking shooting star press was insane live.
Landing directly on both of his knees.
Bangs his knees, yeah.
Yes. Which of course sets up the finish and shit. And this this match is very good. I for a long time I thought it was great. I don't think it's great anymore, but I do think it's very good. Again, there's an amusement of Shane McMahon doing hip drop tackles and shit like that, but he should not be doing that. Not with AJ Styles. But it is funny. But credit to the baseball slide bump, which I had totally not remembered. That shit fucking ruled. But yes, very good match.
So, to your point, you can't do. I mean, there are just inherent flaws to this in concept, right? Like your the way AJ Styles is presented in this universe, and honestly, it's not far from the truth. Is that at this point in time, he's the best wrestler in the world. That's the way they've framed AJ Styles. His performances back that up. And to Oracle's point, Shane he just wrestles AJ Styles. Like they just go back and forth and do the dance, and that is inherently wrong and immoral and broken, and it is injustice. But I have two things I must say. Firstly, I would like to say John Bradshaw Layfield, what a pro. He comes prepared with this thing that he is desperate to get over, in which he claims that Shane McMahon is built like an NFL linebacker.
Yes.
And he says it on multiple occasions. And you can tell this is Bradshaw's this is how I'll explain what's happening here. He's like, people don't realize, you don't see it at home. Shane's a dense guy. He's built a certain way. And the thing I'm going to give Shane credit for, reluctantly, regrettably, I'm going to do it. For his age here, dude, and how few matches he's wrestled in the last decade, it is fucking incredible how physically sharp he is. Because what you're describing, Oracle, while I think it's still wrong, like him doing all that stuff with AJ, the fact that he looks like somewhat believable half the time is really impressive, like genuinely so. Like, he's taking big booming bumps. His offense, I think, is like, again, for an older fella who hasn't wrestled, is impressively sharp. I don't know, man. He looks very tired at multiple points, but he always looks that way. So
his huffing and puffing, particularly in these last two matches, when he goes up for the elbow.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things I wrote down, I guess you just tuned Otunga out, because after the first time JBL brings up he's built like a linebacker, fucking Otunga says of Shane McMahon, and the important thing to keep in mind is that he's a cardio king. He's not going to get tired.
He would bury the guys. So I remember there was one time they were talking about Miz being they were talking about him being an A-list. The JBL was putting it because that was his thing, right? He was the movie's the A-list deal, and Miz.
Oh yeah,
and JBL was like, he's the biggest celebrity in the world. You know, Justin Bieber, he names all these celebrities. He's doing the heel shit, and Otunga goes, I think Bieber could probably take the Miz, and it's like, dude, there are baby faces that are gonna have to lose this guy. Like you've just buried like 6 different people all at once. You know, just oblivious. Bizarre. One of the biggest flaws of that era of SmackDown, no doubt. But Bobby, what did you make of this? I'm intrigued.
I love this match. I loved it when I saw it at WrestleMania 7 or what was it, 33, not 17. It was great then. I enjoyed it today when I watched it again. It's not perfect, but it's everything a WrestleMania opener should be, I think. You know, it's gets the people going. It's not something you'd necessarily expect. And really, like, they benefit, too, from having that, Orlando stage, which I love. And the sun's still being out doing this. Kind of sun starting to go down. Just really adds to the environment. You get AJ's hair blowing in the wind, which is kind of an iconic thing, too.
Iconic, yeah.
Yeah, just I loved it, man. I still love it.
Was the ultimate AJ Styles figure of this match where his hair is... One of the heads, his hair is in, like, the wind.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
The best part of the match to me that captures this entire thing and how complicated it is like the story they tell early is AJ tries to out-wrestle Shane and wants a clean wrestling match and then struggles, which again, ridiculous. And then AJ throws this mean right hand. And it's like, that captures the whole match to me because it's wrong and it doesn't make sense, but it's well done enough that I'm looking past it because, damn, I know I ain't breaking any news here. AJ Styles' work at this point is like pristine, dude. Everything he does is like just beautiful. So it's always a treat to watch him, and Shane is very, very gutsy here. Also a great ref bump. Alex, take it away, brother.
Well, famously, Shane, once he saw what the card was going to be and how long it was going to be, he immediately said, "We're opening." That was the story, and smart on him. Like, that's in that era of those 9-hour WrestleManias. I think there's a pretty storied history of guys being like, "Can we please open the show? We don't want to go out there halfway through." Yes, note here, AJ is very handsome. Shane starts the match in his very, European boxing stance, and AJ does that thing where he dips out of the ropes. He goes, "No, no, no." AJ, again, just little shit that I don't know if anyone else noticed, but like, Shane, he shoots. Shane has him in a headlock. AJ tries to shoot him for the ropes, but then grabs his jersey and pulls him back, and then locks a headlock on him, and like just stuff like that's a lot of fun. Shane McMahon throws a John Jones spinning back elbow at one point in this match. He grabs AJ's leg and then circles back around. Joe, there is was a show on the award-winning WWE Network that was called Table for Three. Are you familiar with this?
I've heard of it. The WWE Network, was that the streaming vehicle?
The content branded streaming vehicle.
Okay.
There was an episode of said show that had Shane McMahon, AJ Styles, and Kurt Angle. And
shit.
I'm not kidding you, just to pop you. In that episode, this is after 33, Shane McMahon is telling Kurt Angle and AJ Styles that he studied their TNA matches to get ready for WrestleMania 33. And
My God.
They're showing like clips, and Shane's at one point is like, "Yeah, I think it was Hard Justice 08 maybe," and he's like naming the show, and they're showing like Kurt and AJ going at it. And Kurt's just like, "Oh yeah, all right." The reason I note that is because we get Shangle Slam here, a callback to our King of the Ring match where
Shangle Slam.
All my love of Shane too. The MMA sequence in this is absurd, where he's like stringing together submission attempts. I do love though, because it's to me. Does Pac still use the Rings of Saturn? Does he?
I think so.
I don't know why that's not some more people's finishing move. That move is so awesome. Yeah. And Shane gets a Rings of Saturn locked on AJ in this, and then Tom Phillips is like, "Omoplata."
I missed that completely. Fuck.
One of the seldom broken out, but one of my favorite AJ Styles spots is he's locked in a triangle choke and then does a half Styles clash to get out of it. The only other time I literally can remember him doing this was Chris Sabin in the legendary Ultimate X match they had with Petey Williams.
I think he did it with Shin at the Dome. I think.
Yes. Yeah. The good match they had.
Yeah.
For the second time here tonight, Mike Chioda gets kicked in the fucking head and like bad. He just takes an enziguri. We get like a dual coast to coast action going on here. I had forgotten that Shane does the elbow. They just did everything here in the opener, man. They were like, fuck it. Alexa Bliss going on in 5 hours can eat shit. We're going for everything right now, man. We already talked about the shooting star press directly on the knees, so I got to call out the other funny spot that for how old Shane was and how just sporadically active he was, they should not have hit that float over DDT spot as seamlessly as they did, where he goes for the phenomenal forearm and Shane catches him and does the old Rock special. This match is, I would side with Oracle. It's very good. I would not call it great. We're now at this point, we're looking back on 2017. At the time, that was like blessed content because where the WWF was, like getting something like this. And now, things have changed a bit. And so looking back on it, I think it's very good. And I think the biggest compliment to it was when this match was signed, everyone just assumed it was going to be a street fight where they both just did a bunch of really stupid shit and flew off of stuff. And it turned out to be just like a very standard pro wrestling affair of good guy, bad guy.
Which is impressive, but is why I stressed earlier the build is fucking stupid, which isn't their
problem.
Yeah. It makes the match better. I agree with you,
In the video package, like this made me mad. And I'm the guy who's leading the charge here with Shane. When Shane announces on SmackDown, I'm going to wrestle AJ at WrestleMania, JBL in commentary to AJ Styles goes, "Phenomenal one, you just bit off way more than you can chew." And I was like, oh my God. So that's what we were dealing with. But yeah, this is a really good time. And I don't say this lightly because he has been one of my favorite wrestlers for over 20 years at this point. I feel there's a lot of people that have and will continue to take AJ Styles for granted. He's legitimately one of the best we've ever seen, man.
Ever, yeah. I think because his career has so often been parallel with Danielson, people don't quite appreciate it. These guys are going to be gone soon, man. It's going to be real bad. I didn't mean it in a doom and gloom way. Like that generation was like.
It's a very weird thing. Joe, AJ, Punk, Brian, Roderick Strong, all these guys. There's always seems to be this desire to say who's the best of them when it's really we were really fucking blessed, and those guys you can say that they were all some of the best that ever did it.
Golden generation, man. Golden generation. Very, very special, certainly.
You think old Roddy Strong would have gotten a good match out of Shane McMahon?
Oh, yeah. I think that would have had, honestly, I think would have had a similar energy to what the Angle stuff did, whereas, because Roddy's a lunatic, and he's, by the way, you mentioned I looked into this earlier because I was trying to remember it. I always forget it. I was thinking, what is the match that got fucked because they wanted the SmackDown women to be on? Remember there was the petition? Do you remember this? This
It was
WrestleMania.
fucking Corbin and Ambrose for the
Yeah.
Intercontinental title.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I'd forgotten. So, for those of you who don't know, the SmackDown women, it was Alexa. She was the champ. Naomi was winning the belt. And who else was in the match? Nikki wasn't it? She was in the mixed tag.
Becky
Naomi,
was there.
Alexa, Becky,
Mickey
Mickey
had the big headdress. That's what I remember.
Mickey, Carmella,
Carmella? Okay.
Natalia.
Yeah.
And they were on the pre-show, and it was very obvious they were going to put them on the pre-show. You could tell as soon as the card came, you knew they're going to put on the pre-show. And people loved that division so much that even though, let's be honest, that match had like a 1.5 ceiling on this show because it was going to get 5 minutes. It's 6 people. There was a hashtag, and fucking Ambrose and Corbin got moved to the pre-show, and Ambrose legitimately. His effort on that show may be the least effort someone's put into a WrestleMania match in like 20 years, maybe. Like God tier. Like he's so fucking fed up, dude. He's so mad. God love him.
It really honestly fucked the women more because no one cared. Like it was like
because they were on like in the dev spot, weren't they?
There was a former Twitter poster who I remember like going off about that and saying like Ambrose and Corbin had this like incredible 20-minute All Japan style match laid out, and you all ruined it because you need Naomi on the main show.
Yeah, I'm not sure even match was ever going to be much good, to be honest.
I agree. Yeah,
that was an example also of like the women only get one slot, so they have to all be in the one match. You know what I'm saying? Which I think we're still kind of combating, but nonetheless, I reminded myself that other stuff. Well, speaking of such, yes, Alec, cover it.
Oh no, we're just kind of here, and this is the second match from 33 we've covered. I know we've talked about 33 a couple times before, but because we did Bill and Brock on another episode.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, if this is the way it has to be this way, but I'll take the 2 nights of 3 hours over 1 8-hour night. Like I just can't I can't imagine ever going back and rewatching one of those WrestleManias in full. Like just like like sometimes I'll get an itch and be like, oh man, I'm gonna watch WrestleMania 7 tonight. I can never think of myself like 32, 3, 4, 5, 6, like just like I'm gonna watch.
33 is not even a bad show either. It's like if you were to do like an old school VHS release where you could put the best stuff in there, you'd be fucking golden.
Yes, there's stuff you can cut. Like there's literally shit you can cut out of that. Mainly just the last hour. You cut the last hour, and that's like one of the best WrestleManias ever.
I still can't get over how long WrestleMania 35 is. The longest show in American wrestling history on a big stage.
Yeah, we're about to talk about that a little bit. We're about to talk about that because. So I think genuinely, if Shane McMahon retires after this AJ Styles match, he's like kind of a beloved figure. I think.
Yeah,
100%.
So. How do we get the next year? In 2017, they again do the thing where he's protecting McMahon honor because he feuds with Kevin, right? Him and Kevin have a cell match, and he does again the cell spot.
Do you remember how long that match is, by the way? I remember this one from up here.
No,
it's like 38 minutes.
39 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and Dave gave it 4 1/4. I remember that also.
Beast. I don't even remember. I remember the finish was Sammy turn, but then he does that, and then. That all leads to the tag with Brian, where he's like the main character of Brian's comeback, because of course he is.
This is where things get very offensive. Like this is even from all like my talk and my general love for like original Shane McMahon, because you did skip over also, Joe, that Survivor Series 2017 main event, one of like on paper
the craziest talent collections,
but in execution, one of the most like infuriating, like go fuck yourself matches ever.
One of the most like self-indulgent, egotistical matches ever, right? Like the people that are focused on that match is like
it's Triple H, Kurt Angle, and Shane McMahon. Yeah.
In a match with, help me on this, who's in that?
Bobby Roode, Nakamura, John Cena, Randy Orton, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor. Yeah.
What was the theme of that one too? Was it Under Siege? What was it?
That's right. Yeah. That's
Shane McMahon came up and like whispered to Kurt Angle or whatever, or something like, "We're here."
That's
something. I can't remember what it was.
I mean, that show has the all-time Brock Lesnar AJ Styles match, but aside from that, it was like those series of tag matches that were thrown together over the course of 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden these people wanted to die for the show they were on. They're like, I bleed SmackDown blue. Like,
Yeah, it's fucking terrible. And not only are the matches bad, but like along the way, he's on TV every week, sweating bullets, just looking like hell and just annoying everyone. And he's like, he wouldn't sell for any of the heels either. Like the heel characters would have to just bow down to Shane, you know? Like he was like, oh, it's awful, dude.
But yeah,
And
then
it would get worse. Go on, Alex.
oh no, you segued perfectly into that.
Yeah.
The WrestleMania 34 is guilty of a lot of crimes. The worst might be that match, which on paper, again, that seems like a fucking good time, man. Bryan Danielson and Shane McMahon against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, but there's a lot of crimes on that show, dude. Hang on. I think this is innocent by comparison to some of the shit on that show.
Well, I'm not sorry. Hold on, Joe. Daniel Bryan making his return to wrestling finally. He's returning in the venue where he won the World Heavyweight Championship against all odds 4 years prior. And they turned that match into Shane McMahon being Superman.
Okay, I accept and I raise you other Grin Grappler match of note. Asuka losing to Charlotte and being
then saying, yeah, okay.
You were ready for Asuka. Yeah, and also, God forbid we get to the main event. But yeah, your point stands. It's fucking ridiculous. And it's a big part of where it gets bad. You're absolutely correct. And then carry on from there because things, we get worse.
Because this is when the Saudi relationship started. And not going to cover the greatest Royal Rumble because I think there's at some point in Grin Grappler history, we might want to do like a watch along of that because he's in that. But then they start doing that. That's when he wins the best in the world bullshit. And I forgot he was in the 2018 Raw SmackDown tag match too. Lasher, Strowman, Ziggler, McIntyre, and Finn against Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, Sam Joe, The Miz, and Shane McMahon. Man, these were some rough times, man. But then that's when he starts like wrestling on TV every week and shit, and then eventually ends up teaming with The Miz, and they win the tag titles by beating the Bar, correct?
Yeah. And
they beat the Usos at the Rumble, but that was
the Usos. No, they beat the Bar, and then
they beat the Bar, and then they wrestled the Usos. Yeah,
because that was when the Usos they were working. What if? Yeah, they were gonna leave, which is fucking crazy, dude. Like that would change history in ways we can't even fathom. Like
one of the Usos matches is good, and the only reason I say that is because I remember one of the Usos matches has a spot where Shane goes for the coast to coast while one of the Usos intercepts him with a missile dropkick in midair. I thought that was cool.
I remember like one of those matches, but because they work at Chamberlain and they work at Fastlane. But the story of this was that I'll die on this hill. I don't give a fuck. Everyone says like the Miz should never be a babyface, and it's true 99% of the time. Yes. This was actually like a compelling idea, though. Like the idea that he wanted to just for once do something that his dad could like be proud of his son for winning something. Like, because he's always cheated, he's always been this villain. No one likes the Miz, and he wanted to, right his wrongs. I think that's compelling. I think it's fun. Was he the best guy for it? I don't know. I think the crowds actually quite liked this stuff. Mm-hmm. Shane obviously will quickly make sure that ended, but I thought there was real potential to this. And I'm not saying he was going to be a main event WrestleMania, but I think it would have been. I put it this way: the fact that it failed has meant that for the last 6 years, he has just been the exact same character that you were. Like, there's no evolution because it failed, right?
Yeah.
So him and Shane are a team, and then eventually this pivots into Shane being a heel, and they wrestle at the aforementioned longest wrestling show in the history of America. And I don't remember that match being bad, but I remember Shane winning and just being like,
I think the match is super entertaining. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shane winning was crazy, and then they do a cage match that I remember being bad, and Shane wins that as well. It's just like
brother.
And then, based on cage match, he beat Miz in 40 seconds on SmackDown.
Yeah.
This was the era. Right? They cut all the babyfaces' dicks off. Right? It's what they did every week. It's crazy. Sorry, Alex, I'm hijacking, but I remember this vividly. Yeah, I just don't know.
This is a point to call out. This kind of goes into the legacy of Shane, but like this thing with the Miz, this whole run is like what worked about Shane McMahon goes back to just what the first fucking thing Oracle said was he was a guy that looked like he was wearing like expensive backyard gear that was just thrown around and jumping off shit. People don't want to see Shane McMahon every week. They don't want to see him as a heel cutting like heel promos. They want him to like, the chant Shane's a pussy. Like that was the thing of like, cause he ran away from conflict cause he was like a little shit talker. You don't want to see Shane McMahon in like situations in which he looks to be the dominant force or like a peer of the person he's wrestling. He's just the guy that he's maybe the scrappy can work out from underneath guy, and all this shit proved that, man. You don't want to see him fucking doing wrestling matches with the Miz. He's the Jim Cornette thing. Shane McMahon wasn't gonna be taking arm drags in the opening match. He was gonna be main eventer or nothing, and
he ended up fucking doing it. That's the craziest part about it. But he eventually becomes embroiled in a feud with Roman Reigns, whom he beats, by the way, we should know. He builds this sort of unofficial heel faction of like Drew Mac, the FTR, and Elias.
I remember FTR Bald beat Roman on Raw during this run.
I think is a different thing. I think you're thinking of when they beat Roman and Bobby on like, I think that's the year before. I think. I honestly don't know, Alex. This is off the top of my head. I think, because I remember they rolled up what Oracle's nod, very confident nod from the Oracle of Wrestling. I think it's a different part of the run. I could be wrong. I don't know.
I apologize. My 2019 WWF kind of runs together.
Don't worry, bro. Mine's razor sharp. Dax said that Shane thought this was like the most beast thing ever. Before Elias was in, and it was Shane, Drew, and FTR. Dax said that Shane walked through the curtain and declared, "We need to be the Horsemen." And I believe this wholeheartedly because of everything he did on TV that year would imply he thought he was Ric Flair. So, yeah, he's doing his... then he's working with Kevin Owens, and they just worked in the opposite roles, 2 years prior. And eventually... Kevin would dispatch of Shane, and we'll get to what happens after. But first, let's stop in the Roman feud.
I will just say, since we don't have to circle back to more 2019 discussion, I did go to SummerSlam 2019, which was in Toronto, and I remember that match with Shane and Owens having monster heat because Kevin was from Canada, and so like that's kind of I have a good memory of that. But then all this other shit, man. And as we've been talking about it, the repressed memories have been flooding back, and it was very, very bad stuff, man.
It was. Thankfully, this next match was not.
No,
July 14th, 2019, Extreme Rules. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, the aforementioned Arn and Flair of their unit, take on Roman Reigns and The Undertaker, who were going by which name, Alex? Remind me.
The Graveyard Dogs.
The Graveyard Dogs. In a no-holds-barred match, which, again, to continue the weird rules on this program, like they have like a traditional tag and then just do like a no-holds-barred finish.
Can you imagine 2019 fucking Mark McCool doing a tornado tag where he's like just running spots the whole time?
I find this match to be like equal parts charming and infuriating in the sense that like this obviously is what Taker should have been doing for the last part of his career. Like why?
Yep.
The way that on the documentary that like he like kind of broke some sort of. He cracked the code, it's like, dude, this is what old wrestlers do. Like, you hide on the apron and you do your high spots. That's wrestling. This match is really fun. And to be fair to Taker, dude, like, he's actually very good in this and looks very sharp for, relatively speaking. And this ends things on a positive note, too. Shane is a pussy again in this match. He's a heel again. He's terrified of The Undertaker. So I'm not going to overstand and say it's anything great, but this is a good match. And it's, considering it's Taker's last real match, it's a pretty neat send-off for him, all things considered. Bobby, what did you make of this one, mate?
Yeah, it's pretty cool because it is kind of just like a standard, early in the pay-per-view tag match, but you have 4 stars in it, which, you didn't see often in WWE at that time. Just kind of thrown together. And, I like it quite a bit. I liked it when I saw it, and I liked it again today. I think all the parts in it worked really well. Undertaker, again, he's limited, but, like, you can be limited in a tag match instead of... trying to go out there and wrestle for 25 minutes at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he plays the hits, right? And it works. And Philly loves it. So, I'm with you. The lore is this was a make good for the Goldberg fiasco, right? That's the... Yeah.
Yeah. you can tell by the commentary, he looks better than ever. Look at the Undertaker. He looks amazing.
And you can sense like a real motivation with how he's operating in there too, right? You can see him trying to really get the best he can out of what he's got left. And I do really like the stuff with him and Drew and the big kind of standoff. And I think he does a lot for Drew here without actually having to do a lot, just by.
It is kind of weird because the story of this match is that we're going to do a Drew Undertaker singles match.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Worked out all right for Drew, though.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've definitely heard. Imagine if you could have pulled Drew aside that night in Philly and said, "Listen, there's going to be some ups and downs. In 5 years, CM Punk's going to be back, and you are going to be his like premier rival when this happens. Like, I promise you. Also, don't forget your login on Twitter. It's going to be important. That's what's beautiful thing about wrestling, though, right? Like, you just never know. You never ever know. The Oracle of Wrestling. What do you make of this no holds barred tag here?
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Taker definitely looks sharp in here. Drew Mack is fucking awesome in this match.
Oh,
yeah. The coolest visual of all of 2019 WWE is when Taker does his, because I mean it's a bad year. We've talked about that, but when Taker does his fucking throat slash and Drew Mack stands up right behind him, that's like an awesome moment. Yeah, this is even the Alliance, the Elias interference and stuff is as silly as it is with him being in the Shane McMahon group. It's done very well, and it kind of adds to the chaos of the match.
Takes a good choke slam.
We all laughed at that, right? Yeah. Like just him appearing and Michael Cole getting at the big. Oh my God, it's Elias! I was like, what the fuck is Elias doing?
My favorite Shane moment from the whole match, and yes, he does play what he should, which is a cowardly bitch heel. Is when he goes up for the tombstone and he crosses his ankles for his life.
Yeah.
When he goes up for the tombstone,
he still had a big run ahead of him, brother. He had to protect SummerSlam's buy rate. Come on.
Yeah, this is a super fun match. Really good match to open a show. And then afterwards, I caught. I was kind of like, because I was watching these matches while Raw was going on last night, and I hadn't turned off the Peacock stream that I had on for the match, and there was a Seth Freakin and Becky promo, and I was like, oh no, and I proceeded to turn it off and was reminded of 2019 World Wrestling Federation. But yeah, this match is very fun.
It's the opener, and it's very fun. After this match, because this is not all bad, I just want to read this to give a perspective on what's going on. After this match, FTR Usos, Aleister Black versus Cesaro. I have no memory of this, by the way. Handicap Bailey over Alexa and Nikki. Braun and Bobby Lashley, last man standing.
Okay. The last man standing match is good. Cesaro and Aleister Black is awesome.
New Day versus Bryan and Rowan versus Heaven Machinery. AJ Styles versus Ricochet. Listen to this one. Kevin Owens versus Dolph. 17 seconds. That match goes. Kofi Kingston, Samoa Joe. Becky and Seth versus Baron and Lacey. And obviously the cash. Like, I'm not saying that says bad. What I'm getting at is like, what an insane era this was. It felt like so many things clashed at once, and the creative was terrible, dude. None of it adds up, does it? When you look back on it, it's very strange.
And
so anyway,
this was right after they did the pay-per-view that did like 4,000 people, right?
Stomping Grounds, yeah. Which I think is considered like the lowest. Mm-hmm. Well, no, in terms of business, the lowest. I think the Rumble 2022 is like as low as Vince got and creative. I thought that was like everyone walked out to I'm sorry, Bob, but everyone walked out to fucking silence on that show. It was an insane moment to ponder.
Yeah, except for Shane. Honestly, he got a big reaction.
Yeah, ironically, and that would
go figure.
But, Alex, I'm intrigued if you'd seen this before. Taker's last real match and our last match of the night. Go for it.
I had not. That's why I picked it for this, because I had heard people kind of talk about how it was fun, and I had not seen this match because, like I said, at this point, it was just too much. And watching this, it's amazing. It's still the same shit. It's still fake fighting, but like watching this, I like the Kevin Dunn camera cuts and stuff. It's like, I guess because it became this in such a gradual fashion that we just accepted it. But like, we can't go back to this. Like, if they try to present the product like this, we just won't accept it again. Like, it's a ridiculous way. Well, some of y'all will, but some of y'all watch something called Rampage still. But anyway,
come on, that show's not even on the air anymore. You piece of shit. Go on, go carry on with a Shane McMahon program.
All right, so talking about the best of all time here, Shane looks awful in this match. He looks like a stuffed sausage strung out on cocaine, dude. Like, the way his skin is just like pushed to the absolute max. And he, not to imply that he's been on these substances from time to time, but like, and this is what I'm talking about, where his the top button is buttoned, so his head looks like it's gonna pop off, and they do this big shot of him before he does the coast to coast doing the throat slash, and I'm like, dude, he's about to have a fucking heart attack. Look at him, looks like Dom DeLuise over there, man. And the match here, the story is like Drew Mac's the next guy, and obviously he was, or one of, and he would never have done it, Taker, that is. But you have to think of like how cool it would have been if like his send off was Drew just killing him, like, just the match where Drew comes in, and because at no point in this does Drew like get freaked out by him, like the classic Undertaker thing. Ooh, he like steps up to him the whole time. And I love the finish because, one, it gets the visual that Oracle laid out, but the idea is that Drew's about to Claymore Taker, but then Roman cuts him off and saves Undertaker. So, yeah, this is really fun. This is a great opener. There's Shane. Shane does two really cool things in this. There's one point where he goes to the top rope and jumps to the outside and does an elbow through an announce table. And then there's another point where he jumps from one point in the ring to another into a garbage can to kick it into somebody. I'm pretty sure this was the first time we had seen either of these spots in
brand new.
That we did.
Brand new.
So to the crowd's credit, also, they're a bit of an old school crowd. We do get a Shane's a pussy chant in this match. I thought that was good and kind of a fitting way to end. It's just a good brawl with, and they did a good job of, Roman doesn't do too much because they know the crowd would turn on it if Roman became like the hero of the match. And it just works for what it is. I do need to correct, I believe we said in the Goldberg episode that was the last time Undertaker did old school, but he broke it out in this match. So this would have been the official last time. And you were the hilarity is you're saying this was like the make good for the Goldberg match. We covered Goldberg's make good for that, and it was the Ziggler squash match.
Yeah.
It's it's
perfect, right?
The coin has two sides, exactly. Yeah, this, and one last chance for Michael Cole to say the best pure striker in WWE history about the Undertaker going.
Look, man, I understand that there's like not many people are rushing to be sentimental about the Undertaker these days. Like, I get it. It actually is a cool moment after this match when he like actually takes time, because I think he realized he was definitely obviously going to work with AJ at Mania, but like he obviously didn't know it would be his last real match, but he knew it wasn't many left. He probably thought it would be his last in Philly at least. And he does take a moment in the ring and like soaks up the atmosphere, and it actually is, I thought, quite powerful stuff, really, relatively speaking. I mean, Taker by this point, him teasing retirement was almost like a parody of itself, right? After what happened in 2017, you can never take him seriously again. But I think it is pretty cool moment, especially because it isn't WrestleMania and it feels like something the audience has been kind of treated to. Like the Undertaker wrestled Extreme Rules for some reason. It's cool, man.
It's from where we are separated from 2019 now. I don't hold much nostalgia for like the Brock Seth match from SummerSlam's awesome. And, I kind of struggle to think of other like moments from that era that are free of any sort of like cynicism. Yeah. And I watched this today, and aside from the presentation of it, like with the camera cuts and stuff, it didn't fill me with that dread of 2019 WWF. So that is a high compliment I can pay this match.
I agree completely. There is a match I've discovered happened here that I'm stunned you did not pick, but you couldn't really because this act was locked in. It appears that September 10th, 2019, King of the Ring semi-final, best 2 out of 3 falls. Special guest referee Kevin Owens presiding over Chad Gable versus Shane McMahon on SmackDown.
I can hear how quiet the crowd would be for that.
Well, this is the era where like they couldn't have wrestling during the ad breaks. Everything had to be 2 out of 3 falls.
Oh my
these are
God.
real, and again, these are real things that happened.
Yep.
And this isn't even me doing like, well, it's so much better today things. Like, obviously it is, but I don't even really care about that. I'm just saying, like, we watched this sometimes. We lived through it. We've been through a lot, guys. That's what I'm saying. On the premiere of SmackDown on Fox, which obviously proved to be a smash hit, definitely hooked a lot of new viewers with that one. Thank God they'd never repeat the issue of doing a wholly uninteresting television premiere. Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon met in a ladder match in which the loser is terminated, and that was Shane McMahon's farewell as the best in the world. He would later, obviously, it wouldn't be the headline, sadly, because Cain Velasquez would steal that honor at the last dying moments of the program. And now it's time to get into some really dark stuff. And I'll try and be brief here. Alex, would you like to do this, or should I take the other? I feel this would be harsh to ask you to do this next couple steps.
How does he even come back for that Braun match?
Well, he's basically the same character. Right?
Raw Underground.
Raw Underground. He emerges as the host of Raw Underground, which, to be fair, was entirely in line with what we'd heard to be like his sort of artistic and stylistic preferences with the shoot fighting business and such.
I remember they had the cage girls dancing, and then the internet got mad, so they had to can those girls right away. Yeah,
fucking Bob. How did they get from Underground to Braun? The angle was he bullied Braun. That was the angle. He's like a child, like a sort of schoolyard bully. Does anyone know how he started doing stuff with Bob? Bob's just said, "Fuck this." Like Bob.
No, honestly. Yeah, I don't. I guess he just showed up because there weren't fans, so like you kind of just show up wherever. And
does anyone?
Did he have like a bodyguard or anything? It wasn't almost part of the Raw Underground.
Yeah, because he was underground. Yeah,
and he had the other big guy. What's his name? Babatunde.
Wow.
Who also ruled? Commander Aziz.
He showed up on ML Dub, the Eric Bischoff show. So this all leads to a cage match with Braun Strongman, and I think he takes like a big bump in this or something. I remember this being quite bad. I honestly don't know. I can't. I mean, this show, it's a different time in my life. I don't know.
I remember 2 things because it was one of those. It was so ridiculous that it made me laugh. Was he might have wore it to the ring at WrestleMania, but Shane had, there was the Strowman Express, and Shane put a piece of duct tape over Strowman and put stupid. So it was the Stupid Express. And that led to the cage match where Braun throws Shane off the top. But before he does, he goes, "Who's stupid now?" And
that's right. Yeah. So I remember that being the worst match on the show because that show's actually like pretty good. All things. I mean, it's the first match of a crowd, right? First show of a crowd. Cage matches informed me that the worst match on the show was actually, and I mean, the things you forget in life. Natalia and Tamina defeated. They won this match. Defeated.
Oh, that match went like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Billy Kay and Carmella, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, Lana and Naomi and the Riot Squad. What?
Yeah.
That's when Mandy Rose and Dana were tag partners. Or no?
That's one of the blondes slipped on the.
Mandy.
She slipped on the ramp, and then the next night, remember Orton did the thing where he was like pretending like he slipped on the ramp because Orton definitely took that match with Bray Wyatt seriously.
They were basically like in like.
I forgot this is that weekend. Holy shit! That's the opener the next night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god! All right. Anyway, I don't remember the match being good. Oracle, is the Shane Braun match good?
Not from memory.
No. All right. Nonetheless, that is not, unfortunately, the end of this story. As famously, in 2022, Shane McMahon emerged as part of the Raw Rumble.
I would say that was more infamous than famous, Joe.
Yes, I would agree. This is actually genuinely a night that lives in infamy because, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, this is one of the worst. It's one of the worst things the promotion has done as like a big show. I think it's fair to say. I mean, Roman and Seth have a good match.
Yeah.
The rest of that show is like almost unanimously, universally bad, and the main event is the saddest Royal Rumble. I think, even because 2015, the fans are mad at the finish. There's not. This is just sad, and there's enough interest, is there, Bobby? Just quickly.
Well, for the men's one in particular, the first 20 guys or whatever, it's all just like mid-carders or whatever, and then they finally bring out some people, but yeah, just at that point of the night too, I think everyone was just kind of fed up with how the entire night had gone so far.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, Shane does get a giant reaction in that one.
Yep.
Very funny when he gets in the ring that he does the Kevin Owens stuff, and probably could have done without that. But I will say, and we're 3 hours in, I'm comfortable saying it, that was finally our taste of Shane Brock. So I did enjoy that one moment.
Right.
But
good for you, bro. Whatever it takes.
Other than that, I mean, just a miserable night, really. And as it came out throughout the week, Shane was the fucking menace backstage. So
yeah, so we knew watching it he was in rare form, because he shows up and he has this spot with Kevin Owens that Bobby was referencing, in which he gets super kicked and like shrugs it off like Road Warrior Hulk and just launches KO out the ring. Like just fucking buries Kevin Owens. And this all seemed funny afterwards, that Shane's pitch was like he would be in from 1 to 30. He would be in the whole time as an Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And like, wasn't he going to do something with Brock? Like he was setting so he wanted to do something. I can't fucking remember.
Yeah,
he wanted to set something up.
And then also he was supposed to come out 29th, but then they played
Yes.
his music 28th, and he told Randy to go out instead, and Randy told him to go fuck himself.
So
wasn't that like part of the story? Also, Brock was like, he needs to be out of the ring before I get to him, or else I'm going to hurt him, or something like that.
I don't.
No, because they have exchanges, because he wallops Brock with a clothesline.
That was Bobby's only highlight. Yeah, so I don't know, but he let the company just to a level I've seldom seen for a guy his stature. Like the company threw him under the bus with such vigor and like violence after this weekend.
Yeah,
and the world was like, he's not welcome around here anymore. They kicked the shit out of him in the media. Remember how much stuff like they just put like Shane fucked it up. Shane was a menace. Shane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying anything true, because I'm almost certain it was true. He seemed to be in a very unique state. So yeah, this is fucking terrible. And obviously this is a significant blow to Shane's reputation. But luckily, a year later, there will be a chance at redemption, Alex. The sun is shining.
Oh, baby.
Hollywood swinging. It's a great weekend. Some great WrestleMania matches already underway. Night 1 was a classic, one of the greatest WrestleMania nights ever, already in the books. It's time for a little bit of fun on the show. We've got a little cameo coming, right, Alex? You're there in attendance. Shane McMahon's music hits. Talk us through it, brother. What a thrill.
Oh, man. The ultimate thrill ride. Oh, that was 33. I'm sorry. But, yeah, man. Night 1 is obviously fantastic, but the gimmick of was that Snoop Dogg and The Miz were the hosts of WrestleMania. And hilariously, this was not advertised at all leading into the show. Snoop Dogg is a sizable star. You'd think you would mention he was going to be there. Because I remember landing in LA and seeing Snoop Dogg on the side of a building with the WrestleMania logo. And I was like, why is Snoop Dogg there? But they were the host, and on the first night, I believe it was disgraced Raw commentator Pat McAfee that was the impromptu match that The Miz was subjected to. Correct. And that's when George Kittle made his cameo, right, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we're almost guaranteed one of those at WrestleMania with Penta now in the equation, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So night 2, they do a similar segment, and Snoop, he tells him, The Miz is like, why'd you do that to me last night? And Snoop's like, my bad. And then he's like, that's right. And he goes, no, my bad. And he points to the ramp, and here comes the money hits. And man, I was like, I literally did the little kid thing. I went, like, I was just so like, oh my God, Shane's here. And this was towards the end of the night. I think there was only a couple matches left after this, but so this was already after the IC triple threat. So I in my opinion, I had my money's worth. And So he comes out, and I don't know if I've ever experienced anything like this. Of like, it was so funny I couldn't laugh. You know, it was like there's that King of the Hill where Hank doesn't laugh at something, and Bobby's like, "Is it not funny?" He goes, "It is funny. In fact, it's the funniest thing I've ever heard." And that was me just sitting there, like, I was like, "This is incredible." All he had to do was go out, throw his shitty punches, and then do like an elbow drop. I guess he could do some fucking calf crusher, like, you know, calf slicer, and no one gives a shit. This fucking moron. Well, how old is he at this point? 50s, right?
50,
Yeah.
has to be 50.
Decides he wants to run high spots with fucking Mike Mizanin, who's in a suit. He shoots him off the rope, duck down, leapfrog, get it again, brother. And then he jumps in the air and he lands. And this is the shit we're talking about. Maybe this is like the Reaper came to collect after all those sky twisters and shooting stars where he landed on his knees. He was like, "This is the one where you're fucking done, my friend." It's because he lands and then he just rips his quad and falls to the side. And he's just laying there. And I said out loud, he just blew his fucking leg out. I was like, he tore his quad. And then, I mean, the superstar of the segment is Snoop Dogg, because he doesn't miss a fucking beat. He saves the whole segment. I think I've told you all this story before. The whole, like, I guess punchline you would say to this is I was sitting there, and the dude and his girlfriend who were next to me, when the segment started with Snoop and The Miz, went to get concessions and beers and stuff, and they came back as the cell was being lowered, and he sat down and he goes, "Did I miss anything?" And I was like, well, Shane came back and then he blew his leg out, and then Snoop Dogg saved the segment and gave The Miz a people's elbow. And this guy like just went, okay. Like, I could tell he didn't think he believed what I said at all. He just kind of moved on with his day. That was, for my love of Shane, like the unironic love of, you know, pre-comeback Shane in 2016, and then the hilarity that came with that. There was no greater payoff than that happening. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And then, so for Joe, I think you'll probably be the only one that appreciates this. I'm still like, what? And that's when they hit Russell Crowe on the big screen talking about the Demon and the Iconoclast having a match in the Hell in a Cell. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? My head's going to explode.
Oh, fuck. And
Russell
this
Crowe
is the
thing
part.
was
Dude, this is the part that was lost on you in the building. Is they do a fucking. They're like, "Oh, Shane still got it," and he's just.
That was like, I was so happy to be there that night. I had so much fun. That was a great experience. But man, talk about wanting. Like, I wish I'd been on like the fucking Grin along, or like in a room full of my friends with that, because that's like an iconic moment that he's probably not going to ever wrestle again. So that'll be his last moment in the ring.
I was watching this at one of my buddy's houses here in Knoxville, and I texted Joe when Shane came out. You remember this, Joe? And I said, "Oh my god!" And you were like, "This is terrible." And literally, not 2 minutes later, I like just tweeted out like "ha ha 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 ha," or like texted you.
So I'm gonna be careful how I phrase it, because I know this sounds mean. Because I was going to say the only bad thing about him getting injured, which I can see was mean. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, hopefully he's okay. But because he got injured, the follow-up on this was all about his health rather than like, why was he there? Because no one ever talks about this. Like, it's the only time in this regime that it's ever been used. It's a time where we know Vince was lurking, because the next night on Raw he like runs the show. There was things on the show that were supposed. So obviously Bobby was supposed to wrestle Bray, right? There was some idea at one point for Bobby and LA Knight to do something. On LA Knight was supposed to do something on the show at one point, and they pulled him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously we now know, like, obviously Bray's situation was a lot more severe than, like, you know, I think most people even just reporting on wrestling know. Most people, I say. So, like, do you think there was an opening where, like, the spot was supposed to be The Fiend comes out, or, like, it was supposed to be Bobby Lashley, and instead Vince said, Shane O'Mac's in town, brother? There has to have been...
It was supposed to be Jay White, and the hiring freeze hit.
But like, I'm not crazy here, right, guys? There's not been any like good reporting on this, right?
No.
Why was Shane there?
No.
Because they've shown no interest in using him since, and it's been nearly 2 years. So
that's part of this whole story. We're talking earlier about like no one knows really the family rift and whatnot. That's kind of what makes Shane funny and a compelling figure, because there are stories like this where no one really fucking knows. And because of the players involved, who knows if we'll ever know what the real story is.
Right, and we have no read. He's the one person in the Vince Paul Levesque thing. He's the one who's in the middle. I have no idea where he stands. Like, the fact that it seemed like he wanted to do AEW suggests to me that his relationship with Triple H is not great. But, like, is he doing that, like, in name of, like, what does he feel about his dad? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then there was the story, and this isn't, you know, like, it is what he is, you know. I'm not, but there was that story like a year or so ago, Bob, you might remember this, where his son made like a public stance in defense of Vince, Shane's son.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, so does Shane like Vince again? Is he mad at Triple H now? We don't know. We don't even know where Shane is or what he's doing. He's just sweating a lot somewhere. We saw him at an airport with Tony Khan for some fucking reason.
Dude, that picture of him with the Bucks was so fucking funny, where he's 2 feet taller than both of them.
But, okay, here's the question, I guess, before we do legacy and all that stuff. Will he ever wrestle again?
I loved when Alvarez was having his freak out about the potential of Shane showing up in AEW. Mike Sempervive, who's like, you know, the sicko spirit animal, is just like, you're telling me you wouldn't want to watch Shane McMahon versus Darby Allin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the match that everyone was kind of circling. I don't think he ever wrestles again.
No. What on earth could he possibly do? I could see fucking oh god, can you imagine like some perverted version of him and Moxley having a singles match?
Look, I'll just ask, I'll say it here. If, and hopefully this doesn't happen, but you know, Comrade was
5 years old.
Comrade Thompson was very happy to suggest that Vince has got some sort of plan, right? Bob, I'm sure you saw this. There's this idea Vince has got. Like, is that where it happens? Is that where, does he wrestle again for his dad? I don't know. Because if Vince was to start a promotion tomorrow again, God forbid, and you would say, who are the lead attractions available? He would still be high on that fucking list, right? There's no one else available. No one else is out there right now. So
if Vince starts something and the Saudis start backing it, they'll want Shane there.
Yeah. Maybe. Or maybe he doesn't talk to Shane. We don't know.
Exactly. It's part of it.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but now I have the perverse thought in my head of Shane running a blood sport match. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Shane and who do they use on those? They have like Tim Thatcher and Shane McMahon do like a 15-minute battle arts
match. To answer this, look, we'll never know the truth. My gut feeling is he was absolutely intended to come into AEW. Like, I'm very confident of that. I don't know it. I'm very confident, very, very confident. So I don't have a scale of 1 to 10, but I would say 7 or 8. Like, I'm pretty bullish on that. And everyone was whispering about Shane at the time. It was very, very strange. My read on it is it was like a heat check where they put it out there to see what people's reaction would be, and most people's reaction was, please God, no, and then they got cold feet. Hopefully we'll find out one day. Hopefully. I don't know. Shane probably ain't going to speak on it, so.
You think with the way things have played out, and just in your opinion, like your enjoyment of current AEW, do you think it could make that Death Riders angle worse if he had been in it?
I do, but it would be I think it'd be worse, but I think it'd be worse in a sort of amusing way, whereas this is sort of just dry. You know, it's just like, this is bad and there's no fun to it. There would be fun because I think Shane would have like really consistently embarrassed himself. So I think it would have been worse in a sort of quality sense, but I think it would be more fun for whatever that's worth. In like a wrestle crap way, you know?
Shane getting thrown over the top rope by Brody King would probably have been pretty cool.
Yeah, I just like Shane would have had big ideas, definitely. I think we'll leave that there. All right, let's put a bow on this, brother. We're just crossed 3 hours. Before we do, any other matches you'd like to suggest from the last part of Shane's career?
No.
Okay, the legacy of Shane McMahon. We'll let Alex go last on this, of course. Bobby, I'll start with you, brother. What is your final thoughts? Anything you'd like to add off this 3 hour dissection of Shane McMahon as a wrestler. Go for it.
He's one of a kind, and that's kind of where we end up with a lot of these. But he is in his own unique way. Like, there will never be another guy like him for a million different reasons, and I think there's something to that. I think that's special.
Yeah, there's definitely something to it. Oracle, final thoughts on Shane McMahon?
A very fun wrestler at his best. A very unfortunate wrestler at his worst. And in recent years, that the latter has come to be too close to defining his legacy, more than I would like, because he was very fun as a kid growing up, but he lasted quite a while for the last decade or so, and did hurt his legacy a little bit for me. But the Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression, man, he was fun to watch sometimes, just as like a crash test dummy who would like fucking do insane shit. It meant something. It stood out more than just like some guy who would like, was on the road every week and taking bumps or whatever. Because he would do stuff that was, a lot more memorable and stood out more. And a lot of people have criticized him for that.
Yeah.
But I actually think that was the appeal to Shane. Whether you find that appealing or not is subjective. I certainly found it appealing. But again, he came back in 2016. It was really fun at first, and then became less fun by the week, I think. And I also think his blood pressure probably,
suffered dramatically. Yes.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk about his.
Oh, that's one of the greatest ever. Someone tweeted that earlier before we did the show, but yeah, I actually, like, you touched on it there. I think that is one of the more interesting things about him is like the give and take of those stunts made him a genuine attraction, but they also raised the bar to a level that like no normal wrestler could sustain because they had to be a wrestler. Like he could just kind of stop by. And most guys who are going to stop by and be part-timers aren't going to be in his position of having, he's insane, but he has a wealth and a sell where he doesn't have to wrestle. It's just a very strange combination. Obviously a daredevil. Look, I think, I was preparing for this earlier and I set the show up. And when I do this, I write like in the description, like for Rick Rude, it'd be, from world class to WCW, the Rick Rude story. And in this one, I said, taking a look at Shane McMahon's journey from stunt show attraction to immovable nuisance. And, wrestlers often, the last part of their career is pretty bad, if we're being honest, right? Some of our favorites have really bad ends to their career. Shane is a very, very unique force of nature in that you don't look at it the way you look at any other wrestler's bad end of their career, because the way he's attached to the company and obviously the family, you'll never look at him. I'll never look at Shane's last years the way I look at like Kurt Hennig's last years, like I will never do that. I'm sorry, Shane, it's not going to happen. And maybe that's unfair because I don't know what he was and wasn't booking. He became an unbearable presence and I do not like him very much, but he was a unique attraction. He was a daredevil. He produced moments that I legitimately think will like live forever. Like that WrestleMania 32 spot will live forever. It's plain and simple. They'll play that forever and ever and ever. So it's a complicated one. I enjoyed doing this. It didn't change my opinion of Shane because it's the Shane match, right? Like once you've seen him do the match, it's just, but I did have fun with it. And I do think it was a good reminder of his value as an attraction and his appeal, which I think you guys have done a really, really nice job of explaining throughout the show. So, a complicated one. Alex, your final thoughts on Shane McMahon, brother, go for it.
I had to pull up our DMs, Joe, because I said when I was talking about what the pre-act 3 convo was going to be, I worded it. That's when he went from actually special to go away forever, and that's kind of in line with what you were saying there. One thing I forgot to mention was my dad hated Shane McMahon, and not in the way of like boo bad guy. Like he would just get annoyed when Shane was on TV, and Like, if I remember, my dad doesn't watch much at all. He'll watch with me, or if I'm at a show, he'll pull it up on Peacock. And I remember after that Survivor Series 27, he was just texting me about how much he hated Shane McMahon, like, and how involved he was in the match and how annoying he found it. Anyway, yeah, I have my fun. A lot of it sometimes is to pop y'all. It's exactly right. He did what seemingly all pro wrestlers do, in that he had a legacy that was, albeit confusing in its uniqueness, but special, and then just decided to make sure that everyone forgot about that for the sake of being like the star of this episode of SmackDown, you know?
Yeah.
So it's I did my damnedest to stress the point that he was at one point in time an attraction, and there are numbers, you know, I don't know if I had them all exactly right, but there are they're not, yeah, it was a real thing, more so than his dad and his sister and the people in his family. Like, there's things you can point to. The matches are what they are. I think there's a reason we saw the elbow through the table and the coast to coast, and 5 of the 6 we were talking about. There is something to that test match that is a special piece of business for its time period and whatnot. And the angle match I do love because it is very singular. The Shane stuff is half genuine from like an enjoying the freak show circus aspect of it, and then also like the perverted part of me that has watched so much wrestling that I can decipher when oh fuck, he just really punched him, that type of stuff, and how sloppy Shane could be. So an interesting case. It does kind of bum me out. Like, he's not different. It's like anybody, like Jericho, like these people. It bums me out to think about what someone's legacy could be if they just had the restraint and like the inner strength to just know when to step away. Of course, I've never been in the position of a Shane McMahon or a Chris Jericho of knowing what it's like to go out there and get that kind of reception. But, he's a guy that, yeah, dude, like, even if he only came back into that Taker Hell in a Cell, like, think about the way people will be talking about him right now, man.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, if only we could have Shane McMahon back. So I appreciate so much y'all indulging me on this. Because even, like, the joke about the Alexa one, like, we were all kind of down for that. This Shane thing, for those of y'all listening, this has been, like, these boys have been dreading this shit. So it's like...
I think what makes this show fun is that we can do any which wrestler we choose, right? I've got some suggestions for next month that are kind of wacky. Like, that's the fun thing about it.
I will say, self-fulfilling prophecy. All of the other wrestlers we've done, I think there's more out there on them. I literally think with the 3 hours we just did, this is the most comprehensive coverage of Shane McMahon's pro wrestling career that has been done.
We talked about... In passing, I reckon we talked about like 75% of the matches he ever wrestled. Like, it was a lot, and I'm glad to have done it. We talked about this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to just leave this as like a little thing that we can maybe leave out there. It's not a cliffhanger because we don't know anything, but it's just a fun thing to kick around. We all came to the conclusion that most likely Shane's time as a wrestler is done. He's still a guy in his 50s. I wonder if he has a chance to reclaim the reputation he once had as a mind in wrestling. And I don't know anything about that. We know nothing about what Shane's up to, right? What he's doing, anything. Maybe, just maybe, he's still got more chapters ahead of his wrestling story outside the ring. Easy to forget after all we saw in the last couple of years. There was once a time he was seen as someone who could be an innovator. He was once credited for the Royal Rumble 2020 with Brock, which is one of the most brilliantly laid out matches, and he was one of the lead agents for that match. I don't know what he did in it, right? But he was one of the lead agents. So that's just an interesting thing to ponder, I guess, because he's still a young guy in the grand scheme of things, right? Even if he does sweat profusely. So there you go, folks. Shane McMahon in the books. I see this as peace, Alex. This is a moment where we are one here.
There you go.
I thought it was going to be very hard to find an image of them both on screen, and I realized Shane was like the commissioner. So it's pretty easy, actually. Yeah. He's on every TV, burying the heels. But anyway, There we go. Shane McMahon in the books. And now it's time. Next month's Grin Grappler. Now, February is always, there's not as many heavy hitters. So I bring this up, and I've got a little wacky this year. I'm not gonna lie. I've just put everyone of vague interest down. We'll run through them. Recent GCW star Masato Tanaka is on the board for next month's Grin Grappler. Recent Raw debutant Penta is on the board for Grin Grappler. Probably the most obvious candidate, one that I may think is even too obvious, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat is a candidate. Also, a February birthday is Ric Flair. We'll never do a Ric Flair episode, but we have discussed in the past Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat, the very first Grin Grappler in which we cover a rivalry. Because there's certainly enough matches, right? I mean, you could easily come up with the matches for that. And there's clear acts too. So, interesting. Current WWE United States Champion Shinsuke Nakamura is on the board. The toughest man in professional wrestling history, Haku, is on the board. Second toughest, Ken Shamrock on the board. And Victoria to round out. So I know I give you a lot of names there because, as you can tell, they're kind of different. There's little slightly different ones other than Steamboat. So Tanaka, Penta, Steamer, Flair vs. Steamboat, Shin, Haku, Ken, Victoria. So that's where we're at right now. That's the options. It's a unique collection. Bobby, you always get first dibs because otherwise you threaten to quit the show. What are you thinking?
Immediately I go to Steamboat, but there's something to that rivalry concept, I think, too, though. I mean,
yeah,
I kind of like that, but I'm open for whatever. It's a really interesting list of names.
The only problem with a rivalry pitch is we could definitely do it, but what would the other ones be? Are there any rivalries you could even do as free clear acts like that? Like
Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka.
You could do that, yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we could do fucking Misawa Kobashi if we wanted to get real.
Yeah, we could. Yeah.
Dynamite Kid, right. Tiger Mask. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And it would only be something we did once a year too, right? So, all right.
The FTR against
Gable and Rude.
There you go. Yeah.
You could also do Cena and Phil, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder. Maybe depends if they wrestle this year, right? God forbid. Oracle, what's your preference here, boss? I'll give you a moment here. Sorry, Oracle, I caught you a bad time. What do you think?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, my entire abdomen is inflamed from this cough.
Jesus.
I mean, it's fine. It's just you know how it is.
Yeah. Let it play out.
Yeah. I'm thinking the rivalry or Ken Shamrock are the ones that pop me the most.
Okay. Contrarian Alex, what are you thinking?
I really want to make Bob watch the Pentagon Jr. versus Matt Tremont death match from Orlando in 2017, but we can figure out a way to make that happen.
People you may laugh. It's too soon. I get it. Penta, you could absolutely do an episode with Penta, couldn't you? You easily could, because he's got some weird shit, dude. He was like a premier indie guy when they used to just work everywhere. Obviously, the stuff in Mexico, obviously,
Great match with Nick Gage at Spring Break. It's not going to be Nakamura. That'd be fun, but
we'll do that eventually, I think.
What would be the E-Act? It would be Sami Zayn and the Rusev match?
Sammy and I don't know. I'm sure there's some free and quarters we can find. Yeah, maybe Rusev.
The Rusev match is great. Yes.
Yeah, it probably would be that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess I'm probably in line with Oracle of the rivalry or Ken Shamrock.
The only thing with the rivalry is where are we at on the footage of the early stuff? Because I know that stuff's been kind of. Do we have the footage of the Flair Steamboat early stuff? I know some of it's on physical media.
I have the Steamboat doc and DVD, so I have Boogie Jam, but I think that's around too. Boogie Jam, within easily accessible around.
Yeah,
it was Steamboat and Flair that Dave would say it was the greatest match he ever saw, but no one else can see it. He would have the tape, but it's just for me.
Okay. So Flair and Steamboat, you obviously have the 89 star. Oh, you could do 84 as well, dude. Yeah, even if you don't go back, there's stuff like they had a match in Japan in 82. Oh, yeah, I think that's the play. I think because also if we just do Flair, if we just do Steamboat, like how many times are we going to say he's the greatest baby? You know what I'm saying? Like Steamboat's
We've already done several Steamboat matches too, big ones.
Yeah.
And
I think,
yeah, because we're not going to do a full Flair episode.
I think this makes sense. Let's pencil rivalry, check your footage, Shamrock's fallback. Oh, that's a good.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have a first then next month. There you go. Fitting, reader, that Shane is followed by something historic. Good stuff. All right, beautiful. There we go. We've got some business down before we go out of here. Andy's been a member for 5 months, still blown away. Nice. We're at a point where we've got 5-month memberships coming in. It feels like just yesterday we started this deal. I realized it's not just yesterday, it's actually about 150 streams ago. I'm sure it's fine. He says, would you guys like to see them pivot to Punk and Cody? Well, that would open the door for Reigns, Fatu, Cena, Gunther, and really push the cut. I think this scenario is infinitely better. Punk, Cody, Jacob, Roman, Cena, Gunther, to me is way better than what they were suggesting previously of Punk, Reigns, Cody, Cena, and then it was like Seth, Gunther. And I'm not even saying knock Seth. I just think the balance is weird, you know? Mm-hmm. And also, Cena and Cody, I just never quite made sense to me, that match as a babyface match. Cena and Gunther's the match, you know?
That's going to put your crowd in a really weird spot, too, and especially because Cody's been champion for a year and the crowd hasn't done the thing of, like, boo, good guy. And then you're bringing back Cena for this retirement tour. So, absolutely. Because, that's also just for the perversion of it, because Punk and Cody in the build would say stuff that would get the internet all mad, and that would make me find that entertaining to watch. Seth can announce the attendance. He'll be all right.
Just to be completely real, I messaged the lads this last night. I think I'm going to fly out because I want to meet my friend Contrarian Alex and hopefully Too Sweet the Good Brothers or something. But I've decided I'm selling my tickets to WrestleMania unless this thing takes shape the way I want it to, because I'm still mad about what I paid. And I'm certainly not going to attend if I've made, there's a couple of rules I have. If AJ is wrestling Logan Paul, you may never see me again on these programs. That would do it for me. There's a few different things that can happen, but I may not be going to WrestleMania. We'll see how it goes, you know.
This Jacob Fatu thing, I think, needs to be capitalized on. This guy is I know brother Roman might be like wanting to do some 30-minute dialogue match, but all you need with fucking Jacob Fatu is just get out there and fucking kill someone, dude.
Genuinely, if it's Jacob and Roman, that will be my most anticipated match, easily so on the show. That's how much I want to see that, you know. And I also there's a few things it depends on, and I'm not saying it in a dramatic way because I really don't intend to do that. It's subjective, right? Some people look at the card and go, "Oh my god!" This last couple of weeks, I've been looking at it I don't have any interest in any of the stuff they were talking about, you know. But that's just me. I'm a weird guy.
Cena Gunther is has been obvious, but also if this is Cena's last WrestleMania, then I understand he's going to be around the rest of the year, but this is the time to do the big Hogan versus Foreigner match, dude. That's just
And I think it'll be an easier match mechanically because Cena will just be able to sell the whole match.
Yeah.
This was Cody. He's got to feed fucking Cody cutters and do whole shit like that, you know? So there we go, folks. Andy, I hope you've enjoyed the grins thus far. I'm very much for that lineup. If it's Drew and Roman or Seth and Roman, it's not that I think those matches are bad. They don't interest me as much. But I'm a weird guy, man. I like weird stuff. All right. Remember, peace. That's what this was about tonight, folks.
The money has come and gone. Now we look to the future.
We sure do, brother. Steamboat Flair. One last message here from Andrew. He's been a member for 5
Come on.
He says, how about those Philadelphia Eagles? Oracle. Pulse on Bry Shot? Who's Bry Shot? Brian something? Is that LNG
Brian Johnson? Terrible.
Oh, Brian.
And everybody talking about and then I was watching Around the Horn during my lunch today, and they were like, I think they're just trying to do. I mean, the guy was kind of making fun of Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. He was like, I think they're trying to do osmosis because
Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan's dads are successful, and Brian Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer is the most, God rest his soul, was one of the biggest failures in the history of sports.
He was.
He literally blew it every fucking year in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That was his whole legacy, was that he was a loser.
Happy 5 months, my favorite conversational content on YouTube. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I'm not sure the lads are as thrilled with your messages. I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, you put us over.
Shit's not going to change as long as Jerry's in control, man. It's going to be the same shit over and over again.
Nope.
This is true. I think this is actually real. You need to be a mum for 60 months to get contrarians, like, because they all have like different faces. I think after, because I just kept adding them, and like it just worked out that I didn't realize it's 60 months. This week 5 years, right? After 5 years, the accounts will have the little contrarian Alex graphic next to it. So I look forward to, folks, as we move off ahead here in a new era for Grin, Grappler, and LNG. All of the above. Bobby, anything you'd like to plug, boss?
Grindication tomorrow night after Dynamite, I believe, is the plan. I'll be there for that.
Has that been voted on?
Okay, let's have a look at the poll.
It was close when I checked earlier.
Yeah, this is tied. Oh shit, it's tied. Go vote now, folks. Saturday night, Shotgun Saturday night, and Heat are tied right now. So
yeah. So there's that. Friday night, Grin Royal Rumble preview, Fed 4. Yeah.
Beautiful. Saturday, Royal Rumble Grin Along. Sunday, there will be a poll up tomorrow if you guys pick another pay-per-view. We're going to run about the same lineup. Manny the Hooper. I've got another date on him. So that'll be Sunday, and then there'll be more shit next week.
Oh, Thursday, Full Sail Behind.
Thursday, Full Sail Behind. Relight the fuse on Thursday.
And the YouTube channel has come in handy, hasn't it?
Oh,
I tell you, brother. My goodness, the timing on that. But I got Bob the old brother links on them, and some of them are from like international TV deals, so I'm having to figure out what they cut out of it. And it's been a real dilemma. Trying my best here, guys. I really am. Andrew, put it over. Alex, I'm sure you're going to plug in a moment, but I'll just before we get there, tough 20. We're rocking and rolling.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Oracle, anything you'd like to plug?
Join us for Grindication at about 10, I'd say probably about 10:15 Eastern tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll aim for 10:05, but Dynamite can sometimes go to 10:10, so we'll aim. In fact, let's just go ahead and do 10:15 Eastern tomorrow night for Grindication. The poll is very close. Vote now, folks. And then, of course, as Bobby mentioned, Full Sail Behind on Thursday, I believe. And then Friday, I could be a tad bit late. Hopefully no more than 15 or 20 minutes at the most. But I will be present for the Royal Rumble preview show.
Big show, dude. That's a big show.
The Big Four, including our friend Chris Bordine, I believe, will be there.
Yeah.
So
big show, dude.
And then the Royal Rumble Grin Along, I will be watching with my family. I will not be present for that. But that is a show that we should all tune in because Joey Bing Bong's WrestleMania plans hinge on that event.
Yeah. Actually true, hilariously.
Everyone tweet at Paul Levesque.
Yeah. I'm not asking for much. Maybe like AJ Styles can win the Rumble or something, Just do something little, simple. Beautiful. We've got a lot coming up, folks. I'm also next Tuesday, I'm on my Rice Man's channel too. We're talking about Scream. So
I saw that Scream 3.
Yeah, we're going to do, because it's the anniversary, we're going to do the trilogy. Like, we have to talk about them.
Oh, hell yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I'll have to give your your booking details to Brother Rice. I think you'll have fun over there. But I'll check the tarot chat, see how the house is, Don't worry about it, boss. I know you're a big money guy. Alex, the Contrarians, tell the people what's happening, what's the latest. I know I'm stopping by on every Friday we drop, right, for Tough 20. Go for it.
I was about to say, let me talk to you. But yes, so we have started our Ultimate Fighter journey. In retaliation for that, Julio, we're currently on a Spider-Man streak in the MCU. So we covered Far From Home, No Way Home, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So there's been a lot of Spider-Man talk. But yes, for the purposes of right now and our buddy Joe, the Ultimate Fighter, Tough 20. The hashtag is TUFTWENTY. We're 2 episodes in. Episode 3 is going to drop on Friday, and for the next 12 weeks, there'll be an episode every Friday recapping the quite important first season of the groundbreaking reality television show, The Ultimate Fighter. For those who have listened so far, the first 2 episodes, so the way we recorded these was in 2s. So the first 2 episodes have dropped, and I can tell you this because these are all in the can, and I've been working through them and editing them. We definitely get more loose and comfortable as it goes, and by I was just editing episode 6 the other day, which is the one where Bobby calls Chris a fatherless bastard. Man, we have a fucking blast with that episode. But the one coming out this week is the first fight of the season, where Bobby Southworth has to cut 20 pounds in 24 hours to take on the challenge of Ludens and Cade. So we had a blast recording those. For those of you all who listened so far, I'm glad y'all are enjoying it. And subscribe. Let us know. Tell us, regale us with your Ultimate Fighter memories. And if you like Spider-Man also, a lot of that going on right now on the channel.
Yeah, which hopefully is good news for someone. I get the sense it's not good news for you, but that's life, isn't it really? But I just want to say this before we get out of here. A few weeks ago we had a confrontation of sorts of an online account, and Bobby said he was mad at the suggestion we don't work hard, and he said in a few weeks we're going to go 3.5 hours on that Shane McMahon. And I thought, there's no way we're going to go 3.5 hours on that. And I don't know why I thought that, but I thought it was a bit much for Alexa Cross 3, but 3.5 is a whole other. Heyman went that long, but Heyman's, and here we are, 3 hours and 30, Bobby. Ball, brother, always and forever. All right, folks, we're going to love you and leave you at last. This has been the most comprehensive Shane McMahon coverage you'll ever find.
Put the word out. Anyone on the fucking internet doesn't have shit on this, man.
Yes. It includes both extensive play-by-play and deep broad strokes coverage. So we cover every box we could tick. We tried our best here tonight. We really hope you enjoyed it. Please like the video if you haven't already. If you want to leave a comment, do. But I get it. It's real late, man. Enjoy your sleep, whatever. We'll be back tomorrow with some gold stuff. Sign up if you'd like to. There's a link below this gimmick. More than anything, keep grinning. Enjoy this outro. Goodbye, everyone.